And go live now.
All right.
Okay, it looks like we are live. Um, right, we're gonna. Sorry for being a little bit late, but we got there eventually. But we are just gonna do a quick sound check and technical check because we haven't streamed before, obviously. So we want to get that going. Do you want to just check your end, YBC, and then I'll check my end to see if like it's all working and stuff.
Yeah.
Can you guys let us know in the chat if the sounds are equal or if one of us is louder than the others? But you're going to need to speak for a second to show if that's the case.
Yeah, I can hear an echo on your end though.
You can hear an echo. Have you got the stream open on your computer? If there's a tab open with the stream, then you're going to need to shut that.
Yeah, just give me a sec, sorry.
Right, our sound's the same. Let us know in the live chat.
Okay, yeah, I think we should be good now. We should be all right.
I'm just waiting for confirmation from a couple people. Say in the chat if we sound
Can
the same.
everybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. If everybody can hear me and we Waffles, type it in the chat. Let us know if you can hear us both.
You said YBC too loud, so I'll turn you down a little bit.
That's funny.
Right, how about now? Is it equal? Is it equal? Speak YBC again, so you know they can get
Yo,
the
what's
new.
up, guys? What's up? Speaking.
Okay, just give us one more confirmation. See if it's like equal sound, and then we should be able to start. Because it just annoys me so much when like we record a whole stream and then one of them is like blasting way higher than the other.
Yeah, someone said you're loud. How do I fix that?
Then you need to just
Should I
manually
turn
reduce
down
the
your
volume
volume on Discord?
in OBS.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Okay. Let's just start, and then if any other people say in the chat in a little bit, then we can just get to that. But yeah, how come
sure,
you
that
wanted to
works.
arrange a stream? Like, what were the main topics of discussion that you wanted to get to?
Dude, I wanted it to be a free-flowing conversation. Well, first of all, let's talk about how we even know each other in the first place. I was a bit shocked when I, saw you commenting on my community posts and stuff. I didn't think you'd be tapped in with my content. So, how did you find me, if you don't mind me
I
asking?
think I honestly found your content the same way that like a lot of other of my viewers did. Like, I'm sure if you got YouTube analytics, it says who your viewers overlap with, like other channels, and yours is like always at the top or within the top 5 other channels that my audience watches. So I think I started getting exposure to you when you were uploading like daily community posts of like just thoughts about this space and like giving general like dating advice, looks advice, thoughts on like the trajectory of like the dating market. And it seems that the algorithm caught onto that you have good retention from like my audience and a few of the other people in the BP Spaces audience. So then it started like just churning out like crazy or community posts to and anyone whose algorithm like is within the space. So because my channel was in the space, then I started seeing all of those community posts too, and I thought quite a few of them were interesting. I agreed on a few of your posts. Some others I had a few more disagreements with. But yeah, as a whole, I think they've been quite interesting. So that's been like the main way. And I've seen a couple of your videos too, but I think it's mainly been the community posts that are driving most of your traction right now.
Yeah, for sure. The community posts, a lot of people read them and they don't even watch my videos. So it seems that, people really enjoy reading my posts and stuff. They do tend to be very diverse in the sense that I don't make one specific type of post. Like I'm not just posting about looks, I'm not just posting about social skills. I'm not posting about one topic in particular. It's mainly, really these posts are like whenever I think of something, I'll just post it. Like it's super impulsive. I just write it. A lot of people think that my posts are like AI generated or that I'm, drawing from sources. Dude, it's literally just all from my head. Like all of my posts and my polls and the questions that I ask all stem from myself. So what are some things that let's talk about what we agree on, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that you and I agree on. People in your audience may have come across some of my videos and think that I'm like this game advocate and that I don't believe in looks and I think that looks don't matter. But people who do read my posts and who interact with my videos know that my perspective on dating is very nuanced. I don't have like I don't take sides. I try to incorporate the good from everything. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd say we agree on a lot. And, just on the previous point you touched upon, like, I've seen that your posts are legit and they're quite free flowing because, um, and I've noticed that a lot of the posts would be about recent conversations you've had. Like, there's even been a couple posts where like we've literally spoken about that topic the day before, and then I've seen you take elements of that conversation and create it into a community post. So, especially like when you're talking about this stuff with people in the real world, I think it's a really good way of making content because you're like hearing from the field like what other people's thoughts are about these subjects. Um, I just wondered if you was ever going to make videos like on these topics because that like brings more of a personal connection. Like it seems that you've got quite a loyal audience just from writing these community posts, but that's just as long as the algorithm is churning them out because most people are just stumbling on them every day because like they have good retention and good clicks of them. But I just feel like if you maybe made videos, you know, about the same things, just like if you just did like scripted off the cuff with like video game uh, playback in the background, which you see in a lot of the channels. I think you're like a good storyteller and you've got good insights about the community and just good thoughts in general. That might be quite popular as like a daily routine. But I'll answer your other
Yeah, man,
question in
that's
a
the
second
plan for
about
sure.
what we agree on. But I just wanted to hear about that because I'm interested.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's the plan for sure. Right now, I just feel like I express myself a lot better when I'm writing rather than when I'm speaking. When I'm speaking, I tend to forget a lot of talking points. I have more of like this introverted intuition, so to speak. So like I really do prefer writing. I feel like my best thoughts come out when I'm writing rather than when I'm speaking. So my videos are more, basic, more like entertainment. There's obviously advice in there as well, but I definitely do plan on like making videos about the community post topics, because that's where we really go deep. Like that's where most of the real conversations are happening. Whereas my videos tend to be really general. I tend to talk about many different things at the same time, which prevents me from like going deep on each specific topic. But with that being said, I'm curious to know. We did talk about this before. I think we should get into the first theme of this conversation. We talked about this in the DMs. The importance of being in a rigged market versus not being in a rigged market. I want to know your take on that. How
Yeah,
important is one's location and the market that somebody is in?
to me, it's number two. Like just based on the experience that I've had in the last year, it's number two. And the reason I've been harping on about it so much is just because it's not talked about whatsoever. Like there's kind of this idea that there's just one size fits all dating advice and dating points that you can make about the community. Like you got the BP guys in one corner saying like it's all about looks, it's all about looks. And for me that was me for a very long time. And I still think that looks is number one. So when I said market is number two, looks is still definitely number one. There's no question about that. But it's what I've come to realize is that it's no good having good looks if you're in a really rigged market. And then you've got other guys in the RP space who are talking about like game and frame and money maxing and all of this crap, which I don't think has that much of an importance. But even in the scope of that, like um, nobody's talking about market. Why is nobody talking about market? Because for anyone who's been to various locations, they will tell you firsthand that market is number two. Like just based off the experience that you have, market is number two. But the reason no one's talking about it is because 95% of guys, they stay in the same market for their whole life. They never have exposure to anywhere else. So it's just this hidden gem, this extremely important piece of information that no one is ever talking about. And even it seems you came to realize this because I don't know how long you've been active in the space for, but I would estimate it's over a year now because your community posts have been popping up for quite a long time. So I guess it's over a year. And at the beginning, I saw a lot of your posts were talking about pre-selection, more like RP concepts. But it seems along the way, especially since we've been having a few more conversations, like I've been screaming in your ear. I've been like, bro, market is crazy. Market is crazy. And you acknowledged it a couple times, but it was only until you saw your own eyes as well, like how important market is. Because you visited a few places recently, and you've told me that ease, like it's magnitudes easier in some locations versus others. And if you're in a rigged market, then it's not even worth it. Like you're not even going to get close to your post
Absolutely.
match just because your market is
Yeah.
so rigged.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you did say something which I found very interesting. You said that it's better to be in your terms marginal in a non-rigged market than to be premium in a rigged market.
Yeah,
And I believe
bro.
that that's very true. I made a poll recently on my channel actually, and you know, I asked people how many partners or how many women have they been intimate with in the last year, and to my surprise, well, not actually not to my surprise, around almost 60% of people said that they've had zero experiences with women in the past year. And the most interesting thing about that poll is that when I looked at the demographics of my audience and I looked at, you know, where's everybody coming from, the majority of the people who watch my videos are in North America, US and Canada.
Yeah, for
And
me
those
as
also
well.
happen to be the most rigged markets along with the UK. And I think you can talk about this as
Yeah, it
well,
is.
how different the North American and British markets are in terms of dating than, you know, a place like Bali, Southeast Asia. It's interesting because your face doesn't change, your height doesn't change, your personality doesn't change, your game doesn't change. The only thing that changes is where you are, and you notice a complete difference in results, right? So it's like, yeah, you can let me know more about that as well.
Yeah, well, I've never dated in Southeast Asia, but I've got friends who I've connected with online who are same pheno as me, but significantly worse looking, like, at least 2 points down. And in the West, they're just nobodies. And in Southeast Asia, they're basically kings. And, they clean up like crazy because all of a sudden, being sub-marginal height in the West is upper marginal, if not premium height in Southeast Asia. And as for pheno, being like a submarginal pheno in the West, like a ginger guy, all of a sudden you're seen as premium pheno in these Southeast Asian countries. So it's like getting a less rigged market on steroids. But even within the West, I've seen there's unbelievable disparities in terms of how easy it can be. Like, I'm a little bit disappointed that you bundled North America and the UK all as one. And like, yeah, that's 80% of our audience. But even within these Western countries, there is an insane disparity between how easy you're going to have it, depending on where you are. I've spent most of my time in the UK and England. England's just rigged. Just like, don't even try. It's not worth it. You're going to be dating down. And you know this is true because look at the couples. If you want to know what a rigged market is and what a non-rigged market is, then go outside and look at the couples. And England, everywhere I've been, and it's been a lot of places, a lot of years, I just know that England is rigged. Don't even have a conversation about it. It's just rigged. You don't want to go there. You can try, but I promise you, you're going to be very, very disappointed in terms of the matches you're getting, and you're going to feel like you're dating down, and there's no exceptions. Meanwhile, I've been to North America quite a few times. North America, you got to remember, the United States, it's a massive country, absolutely massive country. Like,
Yeah, for sure, for
we're
sure.
talking
When I say
thousands of
rigged, I
miles
mean
end to
like
end.
Miami, LA,
We're
you
talking
know.
a 6 hour plane ride to get from one end of the country to the other. And now, um, America, because it's so big, and I've been to a lot of different places in America, I've seen massive disparities in terms of how rigged. And I would say if there's a general trend that you can make, blue state America is basically as bad as the UK. You're wasting your time. Like, and I've known this just from, um, the times I've been there. Like Miami, extremely blue area, extremely entitled attitude from a lot of the girls, extremely competitive dating market. And I've not been to LA, but I would guess the same applies there because again, it's extremely blue. And same with New York City. I have been there, and that was very, very rigged as well. And I remember when I went to Miami, I was there for 4 days, just a short trip. And I had Tinder there, which, um, like obviously isn't a big sample size. It's not a big time frame. But especially when you bear in mind the Tinder algorithm is supposed to give you a boost, like when you're in the new location, like it gives you a fresh new algorithm. Do you want to know how many matches I got when I was there?
How many
Have a
matches?
guess, just one guess.
Um, 5.
Zero.
0.
Zero. Yeah, literally zero.
Damn.
And honestly, it didn't even surprise me. Um, because Miami is just extremely, extremely rigged. Like, there's nothing you can do. It's just, it's worse than the UK. Like, England is, I would give that market about a 3 out of 10. Miami is probably a 1 out of 10. Like, in the UK, you're getting junk, you know, like 1 or 2 matches per day that are junk. And in Miami, you're getting zero matches unless you're a Giga Chad. It's just a waste of time.
Right.
Um, but the
Well, we
places
can
that
we
are
can ask our
really gold
audiences
in
too.
America, which you still get a lot of people who complain online, saying that it's unfair, like, and they just bundle America all into one group. But I got a feeling that a big reason they are saying that is just because they're sub-marginal, or junk in terms of looks, and that's the reason they're getting no matches. Because I promise you, these are not rigged markets. You're probably just sub-marginal or junk. Is the red state America, like, and particularly Midwest. And I know how unrigged these places are because I've been there, and you wouldn't believe the number of matches I've gotten in these places. You wouldn't believe how easy it's been for me. I'm not going to go into the numbers about how many dates or girls I was able to meet up in just a few short days. And obviously, there's elements of the algorithm, like being a fresh new one in these locations. So it was easier, but still, like, some of the red state areas in America, it's so easy. Like, if you're at least marginal or above, then you're not going to have any issues. That's been my experience. And I would say from the least rigged market to the most rigged markets in terms of the Caucasian hemisphere, in like all of the West, I would say there's about a 50x difference, and that is massive. Like that's talking about the difference in terms of looks between what a marginal guy and a premium guy, like a normie versus a Chad, would experience, and that's all just based on location.
Yeah, so I actually did want to see our audience's opinion on that. I tried to make a poll, but it doesn't seem to go through. I was going to ask, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that a guy who's like a 5 out of 10 in the look scale, for example, a 5 out of 10 face, and he's in a non-rigged market, somewhere that isn't like LA or Miami, versus somebody who's like a 6 out of 10 in looks, who is in one of those rigged markets, who would have better results? Because I don't think we're arguing here that, there's nuance in this argument. We're not saying that for example, like a normie is going to have better results than a Chad. Like a normie in a non-rigged market is going to have better results than an 8 out of 10 in Miami. The 8 out of 10 in Miami, I would say he's probably going to get good results. I don't know exactly who would do better, but I don't think that it would be like a huge difference. But as far as where most people lie in the look scale, like, you have to remember the normal distribution here. Most people are between a 4 and a 6. And I think that that's where most of the difference happens. Like, if you're a 4 or a 5 out of 10 in a non-rigged market versus a 6 out of 10 in a rigged market, you're going to do significantly better. And like Wheat Waffle said, location is like a 50x ROI. Not to sound like a passport bro here. I mean, I live in Toronto, and a lot of people say that Toronto is a horrible market. My experience is that it isn't even that bad. I think people exaggerate how bad Toronto is, but
Yeah, and the ones who
yeah, man, I
exaggerate how
totally agree
bad it
with you
is, a
there.
lot of the time they are just sub-marginal looks or junk, and then they're crying because I've not been to Toronto, but I've been to a lot of places in America, the unrigged ones, which had first-hand messages. People complain to me, they're like, "Oh, it's so rigged. These girls, they only want this, that, and the other." And then I say, "Okay, where are you living?" And then they will tell me like Kansas, or they'll tell me North Carolina. And then, they're telling me all of this stuff, and I'm saying, like, hold on a second, but I've been to these places, and I've never seen myself getting more matches in my life than when I've been to these areas. So, how are you saying that it's hard? Like, if we're talking about Miami, then yeah, I understand you. Like, that's really, really difficult. And then I would look at his pictures, and I'll be like, well, it's not really a market issue though. You just aren't attractive. Like, you just sub-marginal. So I don't know what else is to complain about. Like, all I'm saying, and you made a point earlier. You said, like, oh, you asked a poll to my audience, like, oh, if what I'm saying is true. You don't need to ask if what I'm saying is true, or what people think is true. You just need to look at the couples. That's all you need to do. Like, if you want to know if the place you're in is rigged or not, or if you want to know, um, if the 8 out of 10 guy in Miami has it easier than the 5 out of 10 guy in red state America, you don't need to even ask these questions. All you need to do is just look at the couples. And I've looked at the couples and I've taken the pictures. I've taken the pictures because it fed me up so much for so long. These people saying like, oh, just walk outside and you'll see plenty of average guys with attractive girls. That's what I've seen. Okay, fair enough if you've seen it, but it might have just been in a non-rigged market. But I've been to a lot of the different markets, and if you go to different locations, then you're gonna see like where it's less rigged and where it's rigged. So if you really want to know where it is easier, if a marginal guy is in a non-rigged place or a premium guy in a rigged place like Miami, then just go to both of those places, see who said guy is with, and I honestly don't think you would see it as that uncommon. Trust me, I've been to these places and I've taken the pictures. You will see marginal guys in that 5 out of 10 looks range in the non-rigged markets like Midwest America with 6 out of 10 girls is really, really common. I've seen it a lot. But in England, you won't see that in a million years. Like the average guy in England is dating way down. Like it's all DOB. I won't say what the B part is, but it's always D, which stands for down, or B. And I can't say the second part, but in England,
I
just
know what you
overall,
mean. I
sorry.
know what you mean. I think me in the chat know exactly what you mean
Okay,
by
yeah,
that.
well, for obvious reasons, we can't say what it is, but that's what I've seen. So if you want to know where's rigged and where's not rigged, just go outside and look at the couples. And in England, all I see is DOB. There's nowhere even close that you would see this notion of, we've all seen the comments before, the guys who say online of like, oh, I don't think BP is true because if you just go outside and touch grass, and you're going to see loads of average guys with Stacey's. I don't know where the hell you're living, but in England, no way on earth is that true. Not in a million years has that been
Yeah,
true.
I would push back on that a little and say this is definitely true in some places.
Yeah, in
It's
some
definitely
places,
the
I completely agree
exception.
with that.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
it in
It's
the
definitely the
non-rigged places.
exception more than it
You
is
won't
the
see that in
rule,
Miami
for sure.
unless it's
It's not
pay to
like you
play.
see this often. It's not like you see this every single day. But for example, like in Latin America, people will cite this pretty often and say like Latino countries, the guy is chopped as hell and then he's with like a very attractive girl and he's short as
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
So
Because
that's an
these are
example of a
non-rigged
non-rigged
countries.
market, I suppose.
They're non-rigged markets. They are non-rigged markets. So of course, that's how it's going to be. But I promise you one thing. I promise you, if you put that same guy who was getting good results in South America and you brought him to England or Germany or Sweden, he'd be a complete nobody. And you would know that's true because if you told him to download a dating app, no matches, or junk matches at best. Junk matches at best. You're not getting anything. So just because you have it easy in one country doesn't mean it's going to be the rule everywhere. Like the disparity between the rigged versus the non-rigged places is absolutely massive, and it annoys me why no one is talking about it. In the YouTube community, not from the RP guys, not from the BP guys. It's only like some niche channels that specialize in geo um, that are capitalizing on it. But I've noticed those ones only have like a couple thousand views, no, a couple thousand subscribers, sorry. And even for those channels, it seems that the they're not like going into the explanations and ins and outs of it. They're just saying like, oh yeah, I was getting nothing in the West, and then I decided to move to Southeast Asia or Latin America, and now I'm getting easier opportunities. Like, but they're not thinking about the reasons why that is the case. They're not thinking about like the analysis behind this, like the truth behind why some places can be extremely rigged and other places are not, no exaggeration, 50 times easier.
Yeah, yeah, very true. And we can also tie this into your phenotype, because obviously your audience is familiar with the JBW, so is my audience. Depending on what phenotype you're in, this is the sort of general trend that I've noticed, and I want to know your take on it. I think that wherever you are exotic and wherever your specific phenotype is rare, you will generally have higher success in that place. Now, unless, there's a caveat here, unless the place is really white, then the statistics say otherwise, or I don't even know if there are any
I don't know.
statistics on it, but I would assume that they say otherwise. But I think that if you're of a rare phenotype, like there aren't many people who look like you, you're certain to have more success than in a place where everybody looks like you.
I don't know. I'd give a lot of pushback on that, to be honest, because you're making it seem that like being a pheno difference is often like an exoticism, but in all honesty, I would say the majority of the time, especially when it's non-JBW, the pheno ends up just being a tax. Like, especially when it comes to places like England or many of the parts in the West,
Well,
especially
I
the
mean,
ones like
England isn't a
Germany,
good
which have
example
had
to use because
massive
it's littered with
problems
ethnics.
and contentions
Yeah, but
with.
England has a lot of ethnic people, no?
Yeah, it does, and there is a very, very big tax if you're non-native in these places, especially
Right, but
because
if
of
you're
all of the.
non-native, you're also not necessarily exotic in the UK. My point is that wherever your certain phenotype would be like considered a commodity, like very rare, very exotic, women do tend to gravitate towards that. That's what I think. It's just a personal observation. I don't know if it's true.
Okay, yeah. If we're
But yeah.
talking about like those numbers, then you need to be a pheno that's like less than 1% of the population, because in all honesty, for these non-JBW phenos, um, what I've seen is, especially when they migrate to the West, they just have a very, very strong tax applied to them. And a lot of that is tied to the recent, um, you know, complaints that many have had with regard to the possible issues that the non-natives are bringing into society. So, and I've heard
Right.
this
Oh yeah.
firsthand from friends
So
that have
yeah, this
been
is an
the
example. Somebody
non-JBW
said,
types. Like, they've said that like because of the increasing like racism and prejudice in society, because you have like a few from these non-JBW phenos that make news headlines in a very negative way, then it ends up like causing this guilt by association and ruining it for the rest of the minorities in these
right.
places. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true as well. But to cite a specific example, someone in chat said, "I heard black guys do all right in the UK and Sweden.
No, no
Sweden
way.
especially, I notice."
No, 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 no,
Yes,
no, no,
well,
no.
I do see some
No,
cases of that for
no,
sure.
no, 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 no. Like, again, I'm gonna reiterate what I said. Like, let's not say I think this, I think that. Oh, yeah, I've heard it's great here for this pheno. Again, just look at the couples. Just look at the couples. And I promise you, if you see black guys in England and you look at the women that they're with, you're not going to be impressed. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to tell you. And you can go and see for yourself. I've taken the pictures and I've seen it with my own eyes. All I'm saying is that if you look who these guys are with in England, you are not going to be impressed. Other places, don't get me wrong, I've seen other places where I've seen black guys with attractive girls of all phenos. I've seen these locations. I've seen these locations. But England is definitely not one of them. So whoever wrote that, you're talking out of your ass. Like, there's no way that's true. I know the places where I have seen that, and I know it's true. And as I said, like if you look at the couples, you would know that yourself in these other locations. Um, but England, no way. It's never been the case. I've not seen that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't personally been to, I've been to the UK, but a long time ago. I haven't been to Sweden, so I can't really speak on, how often I've seen that or how true it is. But it would make sense to me because black people are a huge minority in Eastern Europe and in Sweden and Germany and things like that. So I did hear, anecdotally speaking, again, I wish there were studies on this, but I don't think there are, that they do tend to have a lot more success in those areas.
Okay, well, that's what you've heard.
So
But as I've said, like, I'm going to
no,
rely
I've
on
heard it
what I've
from
seen with my
them,
own
and
eyes in these different locations and the photos that I've taken myself in these locations to see the couples. And I know where the guys of different phenos are doing well and where they're not doing well. That's all I'm going to say.
okay, yeah, we can agree to disagree on that.
Yeah.
So as far as like a recommendation, like somebody who's in a rigged market, would you recommend for them to get out of there as soon as possible, or do you think there's any benefit at all to staying in a rigged market, even though the
No,
dating scene there is a lot harder?
there's no benefit of being in a rigged market. It's like trying to plant seeds in fertile soil versus trying to plant seeds in non-fertile soil. Like if you're growing crops in the plains of China or the plains of India, which have been the most fruitful for the last 1,000 years, then it's very easy to have an abundance of food and the population grows. But if you're trying to grow crops in the tundra or the deserts of the world, then you're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy, you're wasting your effort because, okay, can it be done? Yeah, sure. Like if you try to plant wheat in sand, then some of the crops might grow and you might have some food here and there, but for the most part, you're just pulling teeth and there's just more fertile lands. And when it comes to dating market rigness, like bearing in mind that I've been to these different locations, then like I'm never going back to these rigged places. Never in my life. There's just nothing good about these places anymore. And especially dating wise as a man, like it's just all stacked in the woman's favor. It's just all stacked in her favor, and you're just deliberately putting your life on hard mode. Dating wise, this is. There could be other reasons to stay because let's say that you live in blue state America and for example Austin is a very rigged market but they've got like a big tech market there, and if you've got a job there that is paying you a lot, you might not have many alternatives to go get the same money because your location is tied to um, your career and your job for the most part. Like there might be a couple other places in America that you can get the same job, but I got a feeling like based on where all of the tech places are in America, those other cities are going to be just as rigged, if not worse so a lot of the time there's this conflict between where you live that's optimal for your financial life versus where can be optimal for your dating life, and also some other variables involved such as cultural reasons that you want to stay in the same place, or family ties, or language barriers. Like because even though it might sound like a great idea, oh just go to Brazil, bro, it's going to be great, bro, because you're going to easily be dating a looks match or above if you move to this location. Like that's a lot of sacrifices to make in terms of potential earnings or culture or family and all of those kind of things.
Yeah, I would agree with that largely for sure. I think a big part of the reason location happens to matter as well, especially if like for example, I've been to Bali, and in Bali people are in and out. Like there's very few people who actually live there full time. Most people are there on vacation, like 1 or 2 months. And when women are in the mindset that they just kind of want to like go on vacation and party and have fun, I I think they're a lot more open to like just hooking up with guys that they wouldn't have otherwise hooked up with or even given a chance or even matched with on Tinder in their home countries, so to speak. And I think you told me as well that you had some experiences with that. So like I think that location is a huge factor. Like if nothing else changes, if we keep all the other variables stable and the only thing that changes is location, your results, like you said, can 50x. Um, where I do disagree with you, however, is not on the location thing. It's on and this is where, the cope comments are going to come out. People are going to say I'm coping. People are going to say, oh, here it comes, here it comes. But dude, I really wholeheartedly believe this. My looks haven't changed much over the last, I'd say 3, 4 years, but my results with women have increased. And I really attribute a lot of that success to, well, first of all, more exposure, which I think you would agree with, exposure, cold approach, things like
Yeah,
that. But
exposure.
also, yes, exposure and the differences in game and behavior, because I was schizo about this. So I track my results pretty meticulously, and I can conclude that, your percentages, your close rates, your ability to, have more success largely depends on your behavior. And I think this is something that a lot of black pillars, see, I already see a comment, YBC2
Yeah.
cope, cope, exactly.
Yeah,
It's like
bro, that's cope,
people
bro.
don't
That's
realize, like,
cope,
if
bro.
you're sitting in your basement typing cope, when somebody tries to explain that getting more exposure and being more social and having being more charismatic has any impact, even if it's we can agree that it has an impact. I guess the difference would be how much of an impact is there, like how much do these things actually help you out. And I guarantee you that a lot of the people who are saying that this is cope haven't really tried it, haven't actually gone out and
Well, I
tried
have then.
getting more yeah, go on, you were
Okay,
saying something.
yeah, like, in fact, like, I disagree a lot with what you're saying, so much to the point that it's not really worth, like, trying to argue with, you might have experienced different, but, like, what I've come to the conclusion in life is that I don't bother having arguments with people that I disagree with anymore. Like it's just kind of a fruitless and pointless situation. What I started doing instead is I just let my actions do the talking, because I know based on my experience what's worked for me and what has got me 10x, 50x, and 100x the results. I agree with you on the point about exposure, but as for this like game and increasing the percentage, in my experience, there's nothing that I can do. And that's why I don't even bother arguing about it anymore because I know what's worked for me and I let my actions do the talking. And in terms of my future actions, I'm just going to carry on doing what's worked for me. And what's worked for me is just exposure maxing in non-rigged markets and then just waiting on S tier. I don't even bother with these game or frame or pre-selection techniques. They're all just wasting time. And based on how it's been for me in the past, even when I have tried these strategies, they just led to Jester. Like so many of these game techniques, like that you see PUAs use, and I don't know if you advocate for all of these, but you know, I learned a bit of game, and I tried to be funny, I tried to be social, I tried to be cool, I tried to get pre-selection. But when I tried to use these strategies, I often just felt that I was compensating with them. That the only time you would need these strategies is when you've gone up to the girl and she's already decided that she's going to give you C tier enthusiasm at best. And then I think, oh crap, she's only giving me C tier, so maybe I need to try use these game strategies and frame and all of this crap to increase it to B tier or A tier, and then hopefully it's going to be able to change her opinion then. But it's never worked, and you know maybe it seems like it does increase in it for a short while, and I feel like it's getting to B tier or A tier, but it always ends up just crashing down to F tier at some point later down the line. And I could have identified that way earlier if I just realized in the first 10 seconds, this isn't S tier, she's rejecting my looks, there's nothing I can do, I might as well just approach the next one in this non-rigged market, and then there's a higher chance that she's going to give me S tier. That's what it comes down to, because all of these game strategies, I've just found that they're kicking the jester down the road. Like you think that you're building attraction. There's no such thing as building attraction. You might have experienced different, but I've not. I've never had this building attraction situation. All I've seen is that game
Sure.
just
Yeah.
leads to kicking the jester down the road, and you're inevitably going to get F tier. And you've just wasted all of that potential when you could have been talking to other people and getting exposure in different ways. And then if you did do that, then you would have found someone who gave you S tier by that point. And then when you've got the S tier, then now you've got something to work with. That's what I've seen.
Sure, but when you say S tier, you don't mean S tier in the sense that like you just stand around and then she comes up to you. You're still actively doing the approaches, right?
Yeah, I'm still actively exposure maxing, but I'm talking
Okay, yeah,
about how
sure, sure, sure. Yeah, sure, sure. So what I'm trying to say here is that even if we don't attribute the increased success to game, even if I can see that, okay, fine, guys, game doesn't matter, what you do doesn't matter, it's all looks, blah, blah, blah. Somebody, you have to think about it from the perspective of somebody who gets into this stuff from a black pill perspective, who's like, all right, it's all looks, dude, and then just kind of just sits around and doesn't do anything, versus somebody who's actually like you and does approaches. And you know, even if we could chalk it up to the increased exposure, people who are into game, people who are into the PUA stuff, you know, of course, I don't advocate for any of these cringe techniques or whatever. You know, there are certain things that work, certain things that don't, but people who are getting more exposure in general are going to have a better dating life. And you have to look at it from this perspective. Not everyone's a Chad, right? So not everybody can be like King 68 and stand outside of the club and wait for girls to approach him. That's just not going to happen to most people. But if you are in the 4 to 6 range, which I would argue most people in this chat are in the 4 to 6 range. Again, if you're a sub 5, you need a looks max. But if you're in the 4 to 6 range, these little nuanced things, behavior, your exposure, how confident you sound, all of that stuff actually does make a difference. And anybody who thinks it doesn't barely goes outside. I promise you guys this. Most people who say that, when I like, if I were to get on a call with the person who's like, nah, cope, all of the shit is like cap or whatever, I guarantee you they would have horrible social behavior. They would probably be really high inhibition, have, you know, horrible you know, body language, eye contact, not be able to carry a conversation. And here's the thing I'm trying to say. Even if I say that, okay, fine, game and what you do specifically in these stupid techniques don't matter, we can both agree this is a black pilled concept here that people with low inhibition, given that everything else is equal, people with low inhibition will outperform people with high inhibition. And people who cluster around these black pill spaces tend to be of higher IQ. And in my experience, I see a correlation between people with high IQ and people with high inhibition. And I would argue, Wheat Waffles, you probably have high inhibition.
Yes,
And
but
if you had
I'm
lower
actually going to
inhibition, your
caveat though
results would
to
be a
the
lot better.
example that you said because a lot of these low inhib guys they might get better results compared to the high inhib guys, but their system is still not going to be as efficient as mine, and I would say that I mog like significantly compared to these low inhib guys because they've not thought about this enough and tried enough to figure out what truthfully works. Um, so like what it comes down to is that uh, what's worked for me, and as I say, I let my actions do the talking. I know what I do, I know what works for me, and I'm not gonna change that. Is that uh, it's easier if you just are walk maxing around let's give an example of nightlife. Like if you're in bars or clubs, what I found has worked really well is that I've just been walking around the club and then waiting for choosing signals for a girl. And I might be walking around a club for 1.5 hours. Or not just that specific club, but if that club is bad, then I would go to the next door and then do the exact same thing. And if you walk around for 1.5 hours, you've had potentially 200 micro exposures with a girl, like passive exposures. I'm not even approaching directly all of the time. Sometimes I do, but a lot of the time it's just passive walking. And then all you need to do is just wait for one micro choosing signal from a girl. And then once you've gotten that, then the conversion rate is insane. Or another thing that's better is looking for the phenos in these clubs that you know you attract and are the phenos that are really likely to accept you. And then if you see them, then do a direct approach. The expected value from these approaches is significantly higher.
Yeah, but dude, I don't think the average person is gonna sit there looking at girls
Yeah,
thinking,
exactly.
okay,
That's what I'm
this one
saying.
is
That these,
my
the,
pheno. Like
the,
they're just gonna approach, like if you like a girl, you like a girl, just shoot your shot. What's the worst that can happen? You get rejected, big deal. If you're not a sub five, getting rejected isn't the worst thing in the world.
okay,
Like
what I'm
I've had
alluding to
girls who rejected.
No,
Yeah, yeah,
what I'm
go on,
alluding
go on.
to is that you said that these high inhib guys struggle a lot, and that's because they're watching these streams at night when they're not doing any exposure whatsoever, right? So they're just
Right.
they have an exposure problem. Like a lot of them don't have a looks problem; they have an exposure problem and possibly a
Yeah, we can
market
agree on
problem
that.
as well.
100%.
But these low hip inhib guys, they're like getting drunk with the lads on a Friday, Saturday night, and they might do a couple of approaches, and they might have good game in these approaches and be a funny character, and occasionally it'll work for them, but a lot of the time it won't. But if a guy really wants to be efficient about it and he's high in hip, then he's going to be thinking, okay, what's going to work the best? Exposure maxing like crazy, looking for the phenos that I know that I've been able to attract in the past, and going to the clubs that are the least rigged, because you've got to remember that there's two types of market. When I'm talking about like rigged versus non-rigged market, there's micro markets and then there's macro markets. And macro markets, that's a lot higher barriers to entry because, this is more of like a city by city, country by country situation. And if you're in a rigged macro market, then it's going to make all of the clubs in that given city very, very difficult. And, dating apps, no matter what dating app you're on, are going to be very, very difficult too. But then there's micro markets, which is, which club within the city do I pick? And if there's 5 clubs or 10 bars, then, you might show up for 5 minutes. And if you're high in HIB, then you're going to be able to figure this out. This market is extremely rigged. It's full of guys here. All of the girls look like they just concentrated on themselves, or they're already talking to guys, or they're not giving me any choosing signals, or they're not the phenos that I would typically attract. So I'm going to move to the different club and generate exposure there. In this high inhib way of thinking, like it is really well thought out, and it's borderline, a bit too far. But in terms of what gets the most amount of results, that's what helps the most. And I would say that these high inhib guys who get the least success it's mainly an exposure problem that they've just not gone out. Like they're just too busy watching these streams.
True, true. Yeah, I agree with that. I would say, yeah, that's true. A low inhib guy probably needs less exposure than a high inhib guy. Like if you just crank up the exposure for the high inhib guy, he's going to get better results. But given the same amount of exposure, given the same looks, given everything else is equal, the low inhib guy is generally going to outperform the high inhib guy, especially the guy who just kind of approaches a lot. Like in your case, the thing I like about your choosing signals perspective is that it doesn't hinge on her giving you choosing signals before you do the approach.
No,
You actually
sometimes it
read
does.
read the
Like I
choosing
would
signals
always do an
after the
approach. Let me
approach.
just clarify on one specific point. So if a girl did give direct choosing signals, then it's an instant approach. Like I don't care what the other variables are, then I'm going to approach because I know that those choosing signals there. But for other approaches, I'm mainly thinking about, is she a pheno that I would typically attract, or
So what? Wait, let's talk about this. I'm very curious about the pheno thing. As a ginger, I heard that being a ginger male is kind of brutal. So like, what phenos do you typically attract?
Uh, not just for me, but this is going to apply to all guys. Same pheno is a massive advantage. If you want the easiest approaches, just go same pheno. Like you've got way higher expected value. Like we're talking 5 times EV, maybe even 10 times EV. And I've seen this just from my own experience. But once again, just look at the couples. Like if you want to know what works or what doesn't, just look at the couples. If you go outside and there's a Indian guy, what girl is he most likely to be seen with in terms of pheno?
Yeah, people usually date their looks match
Yeah,
and their pheno
yeah,
match
they
as well.
usually
I can
date
agree
within their
with that
pheno.
for
That's
sure.
like a very, very common occurrence. So if you want to know if this works, and this doesn't just apply to what on this specific subject. This applies to everything that you could possibly think to ask. Like, because the most common questions I get from the comment section in my videos or emails sent to me after I've given like face ratings and stuff like this is like, oh, I've been wondering if this will work, or if this girl would like me, or if I should go for this one, or if I can get this, or if this place is a good place, or if this is a good strategy. Like all I say nowadays is just look at the couples. If you see guys of that pheno getting girls of that pheno, then it works because those guys have gotten those girls. If you see guys have gotten girls via one particular approach, such as Tinder, or through giving a note in a cafe, or doing a direct cold approach. If you've seen those couples and you've asked men and you've seen that this thing works, then you know that it works. So that's all I focus on nowadays, is just look at the couples, see which guys are getting which girls and how they're getting those girls, and that's going to tell you everything you need to know. Like
But
the
dude, that's
irony
kind of
is,
like
it
a
comes full
really
circle
that's a
because
really rigid way to look at things though, because like I mean, a guy may like, all right, sure, I like my pheno, but some guys may have different types. I mean, it's kind of
they do, but it's going
really
to be more
restrictive
difficult,
to
isn't it?
just say I'm only going to go for somebody in my phenotype. Whereas, even though it's less common, I could agree with you there. It's not within the realm of impossibility to like, as a guy who isn't blonde and doesn't have fucking blue eyes to potentially pull a girl who does. I think that that's like, you often see phenos mixing. You see
It's
you see
rare though.
guys from different
Like there's
races
usually a
pulling girls
range.
from different races.
There's usually a range. Like if you said that like a guy without blonde hair and blue eyes, um, you know, is is he able to get a blonde hair, blue eye woman? Well, you got to ask, what are the couples that you've seen in terms of the real world? Like when I've been outside and I'm looking at the girls with blonde hair and blue eyes, I'm thinking, what guys are those girls with? And yeah, there are a lot of same pheno guys, and there's also a lot of brown hair, light skinned guys that are with those girls. I've seen that. It's probably the
True,
most common.
true.
Um, you know, but do I see many guys who are outside of that pheno getting those girls? To be honest, it's quite sparse. And that's not to say they don't exist. You are going to get occasional exceptions, but the fact that they are exceptionally rare kind of highlights that those phenos of guys aren't really in demand from that pheno of girls. So I think what it comes down to is you got to look at the couples, you got to look at the types that you're matching with on dating apps. You got to look at what you see in the real world, and when you build a picture around that, then that's going to tell you exactly what you need to know. It's going to give you the answer. And my favorite thing about this whole thing is that it kind of comes full circle to the blue pill. That, you know, what's one of the most common and favorite phrases, if not the most favorite phrase that blue pillars will say? It's like, you know, just go out in the real world, right? Or, you know, just go outside and touch grass, bro, and you're going to see guys of this with girls like this. And if you actually do that, that's a very, very strong BP, because that's going to tell you all you need to know about what works and what doesn't and who can attract who. And it also says a lot about the riggedness of the market, because if you go to in a place like England, you're going to see most marginal JBW guys is DOB, is dating down or B. That's a very common theme, if not the most common theme that I would see. And in other places, it's different. So that's going to tell you what you need to know about what the state of that market is like. If you have a chance, getting your looks match. And if you're not in one of those markets, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you.
Yeah, man, I would agree with that. It's funny because, a lot of people will give advice like, just, it's like your advice is extremely rigid, but then you have people who say, well, okay, all of that stuff is good, all of this market riggedness stuff is good, but I just want a really simple framework that I can follow. And I think that's where you
That
and
is
I
a simple
mainly agree, which is
framework.
that,
How simple does
yeah,
it
just
get?
improve your
Then
looks. Like,
look.
I think looks and exposure are the two most important things, right? You
No, I
would agree
think it
with
goes
that?
looks, then market, then exposure. It doesn't get more simple than this. You're saying that I've got a complex framework. It doesn't get more simple than this. All I'm asking to guys is go outside, look at a guy who looks exactly like you, who's the same looks level as you and the same pheno as you, and look at the girl he's with. Look at the girl he's with. And then once you've seen that girl, go and approach that girl. Not her specifically, but the one who looks exactly like her.
Go and approach the girl he's with.
Yeah, no, obviously not the girl he's with, but the one who looks like her. And that means same looks level, same pheno as her. So what it comes down to, let's say that you're a marginal JBW guy, and you go outside and you find the exact guy who looks like that, and then the girl he's with is way beneath his looks level, then I'm sorry, but that's who you got to approach. That's your market level. There's no cheat code unless you change your market. And if you're not happy with what that girl looks like, and you think, no, I'm better than that. No, there's no way that's my equivalent. Okay, maybe in your head that's the case, but in that market, no way. That's just simply not the truth. Because look at the market. The market always tells you what's going on. Like, it applies not just to the dating market, it applies to all markets. You might think one stock is overvalued. You might think like, oh, look at the S&P 500. That's like well overpriced right now. I don't want to pay 7 grand for one, equivalent of that. No way. The max I would pay is 2 grand. Okay, that's maybe what you are gonna say, but no one's gonna sell you S&P for 2,000. It's just not happening. Like, those days are gone. You got to move with the times. You got to move with the times, and if you're not happy with that market, then find a different market. That's what it comes down to. Like, there's no point crying at home. And you wonder why, like, you had that poll that was released saying 60% of your audience had zero success in the last, was it last year?
Yeah,
Yeah,
last year.
last year. Well, either they're not exposure maxing, and that's the reason, or they are having exposure, but they're in delusion in terms of what their true market value is. How many of those guys have done the thing that I've said and went outside, looked at the guy who looks exactly like them, and seen the girl that he's with, and then came to the conclusion, that's my market value. That's who I have to go in this market. And it might be rigged, it might be unfair. It might be very, very unfair, because oftentimes it is rigged against a man.
Okay,
And
I'd like to ask you this question then, because I'm actually genuinely curious about your take. So you say that, most couples seem to be looks matched, most couples seem to be phenomaxed as well. What about the exceptions that you see? I'm sure you see a couple exceptions. I'm sure you see a guy who's would be a 5 out of 10 on your scale with a girl who's a 6 or maybe even a 7. I'm sure even if it's just once or twice in your life, you've seen that. What would you attribute that to? What do you think are the factors at play here that would explain why a guy who is below a girl in looks seems to be with her?
okay,
Yeah.
let's get one thing straight. When it comes to these exceptions, if we're talking about a rigged market, I promise you won't see these exceptions. You could walk a year and not see a single exception. You're just not going to see that couple in these rigged markets because
Well, I don't know, dude. There's a lot of I know a guy kind of people in the comments right now. Like I know a guy who's, a 5 and he's pulled a 6. You see a lot of comments of people saying that. So are they lying? Are they
no, they're probably telling the truth. But I got a
representing the
feeling
looks
that
of the
there's
person?
going to be a correlation that they're going to be in a non-rigged market. Like, and I've seen it myself because I've seen the exceptions, and the exceptions can be 10 times common or 50 times more common in these non-rigged markets. Like when I went to Kansas, and I went to a football game, I saw dozens of couples, dozens, where the girl was higher than the guy. It's so common you can't miss it. She might not be significantly higher than the guy, but a point, that happens all of the time. In England, I'm sorry, you're just not going to see that. It's extremely, extremely rare, and you would only know this if you have been to these different markets. So for all of these guys who are writing in the comments right now, I've not seen the comments, but I'll take your word for it. I would ask yourself,
Yeah, I'm reading the
yeah,
chat while I'm talking to you.
yeah, of
So
course. And these guys who have wrote these comments, I would ask yourself, have you been to the rigged markets that I've named? Have you been to England or Blue State America? Have you been to Miami? Have you been to New York and seen the non-pay-to-play couples? I'm not talking about Miami, beta boxing, because that's like the beta box capital of the world. And you will see reversals in these locations, but that's just all pay-to-play. They don't count. I'm talking about primal relationships. So if you go to these rigged markets, have you seen the same exceptions there? Because I would bet that you haven't. But if you're in a non-rigged place, such as Red State America, then yeah, these exceptions happen all of the time. So that's the main thing. As for the second thing, for these reversals, these couples where the girl is higher than the guy, the second most common explanation for these, I call them MPJs. They're non-primal jester relationships. And I have to say this just because it's
so
happened
as
so
Rehab
common.
Room would call it an oofy doofy relationship,
Yeah,
pretty
oofy
much. Same
doofy. I
thing.
call them MPJs, non-primal jester, because that's what they are. And I've seen this happen so many times. And it's in terms of like the examples that have been told to me. This is straight from the mouths of women that I've been out with myself. Like I've dated these women, and they've told me, when I've been on dates with them, they've told me when they've been in relationships with me, about the ex-boyfriend that they was out with, and then I look at the ex-boyfriend, and the girl I'm with is upper marginal, in the 6 sort of range, and her previous guy that she was with was a sub-marginal guy. He was like a 4 or at best a 5, and then I was kind of scratching my head. I was like, wait, hold on a second, but that goes against a BP because surely that 4 out of 10 guy, that sub-marginal guy, wouldn't have been able to get the upper marginal girl. So how on earth did that happen? So then I would ask her that. That would be pretty much the question that I would ask. Not in BP language, but in a family-friendly sort of framing of the question. And she would totally understand what I'm asking because there's a strong chance that her own parents or her own friends have told her, yeah, that guy's looks are questionable. Why are you going out with him? And the most common explanation I've seen for these couples is just that it was a non-primal jester relationship. She was going out with him for the convenience, just the attention that he was giving her. There was no other good options at the time being. But then all of a sudden, she goes to a new location. Let's say she goes off to uni, and all of a sudden, she loses feelings for the guy, which she never had to begin with, by the way, because there's been zero indications of primal affection in this relationship. And you all know what kind of actions I'm alluding to there. That's what I've seen. It keeps going back to the main point that I've been banging on about this whole stream. Look at the couples. Ask about the couples. And if you go to these couples, these looks disparities where the girl is upper marginal and the guy is sub-marginal, then you're going to hear this answer quite frequently that it's a non-primal jester relationship. That's what I've seen. I've looked at the couples, I've asked the couples, and that is what I've heard.
Okay, fair. And do you think that, these people in, as you like to call them, non-primal jesters or whatever, do you think that they are compensating with, for example, status or some other thing, or do you think she's just with him out of convenience and just because she can? Like, do you think that there's always something that's that the guy's compensating with, whether
There
it
is
be
no
status or
compensation
money, or
because
do you
it's not
think
a
that
real relationship to
sometimes it's
begin
just a
with.
situational thing?
It's like a situation where you said like, oh, I bought a kilogram of gold for $100, but then it's fake gold. Like, are you treating that as the same? Like, be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not the same deal. You could say like, oh, is he compensating with something? No, there is no compensation. It's just not the real deal. It's just BS. It's MPJ. It's nothing. Like, it's not worth pointing out. And this is what annoys me the most is that you see these guys in the comments all of the time, or you hear people in the real world. They're like, oh, but look at that couple. Look, see, the girl is higher. Look, the girl's prettier than him. You'll hear these people make those kind of comments.
Oh yeah, and then they end up being looks matched because they don't know how to rate faces. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well that's very common as well. They're just a looks match, and he or she has overrated the girl. But even for the ones where the girl is genuinely higher than the guy, you don't know what's going on there. And oftentimes, this is what I say to people: the BPs are always hidden. Like most of the time, the BPs are in plain sight. Like because when you look at the couples, the majority of the time in these rigged markets, the guy is dating way down. So that's just a standard BP. Nothing to hide or expose there. But when it comes to these rare
Well,
exceptions, and they are very, very rare, because if you go out in the real world, it is extremely rare. You'll see a guy who's a 4 with a 6, especially in these rigged markets. In non-rigged markets, you're going to see it more common, but even still, they're very rare couples to see.
so I can understand how the black pill accounts very accurately for, short-term relationship dynamics. I can concede that. I don't have a problem with that. Um, the only thing that sort of prevents me from just going full BP, like making my channel 100% BP, is the fact that, like, you have a lot of cases of a girl who was initially high interest, as you would call it, giving the guy S tier choosing signals, and then she ends up losing interest over the course of a period of time. And I made sure to check the guy's height and check the guy's face, and his face and his height didn't change, yet her interest level changes. So wouldn't you say that a girl's interest and enthusiasm for you can change even if your looks are the exact same, and even if you don't gain weight, you take care of yourself, she ends up losing interest? What would the BP's explanation for that be?
Well, again, what it comes down to, look at the couples. Look at the couples. And in my experience, what it's often been is a matter of her mentality max, like what she's looking for in that moment. That's what causes her interest to change. Because this is a very interesting BP. According to the BP community, and I disagree with this because it's not what I've seen, it's not the couples that I've seen. You'll hear BP guys say, oh, the only way that a marginal or sub-marginal guy can get a prettier woman is if he convinces her with a relationship and he begs her for it and he gives her the security. You know the argument that I'm talking about?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's often why women employ a dual mating strategy.
Yeah.
They want
Well,
somebody who gives them security and safety, and he's generally less attractive, and then the guy who's like more attractive, who
yeah.
she
Well,
ends
well.
up sleeping and cheating with.
Yep. There are some elements of that. It's not very common in terms of the couples that I've seen, but you know, there is still this element that a guy is a placeholder. He's temporary, even if he's in a relationship with her. But what you'll often see when these women change their mind about a guy is that he suited her needs, suited her mentality in the moment, but then later down the line, it actually changed. So this is what I'm alluding to. If you ask many guys in this space, like what's easier for a 5 out of 10 guy to hook up with a 7 out of 10 girl, or for a 5 out of 10 guy to get a relationship with a 7 out of 10 girl, what do you think they're more likely to say?
Sorry, repeat that question. You kind of lagged at the end there.
Okay, so what do you think is more common and more, um, you know, likely argument that a BP guy or guy in the space in general would say that it's easier for a marginal guy to get an upper marginal girl for a hookup or for a relationship?
Definitely, it would be easier to get her for a relationship.
Yeah, that's what you hear, but it's totally wrong. It's totally, totally wrong. And I
You're
know,
saying it's easier to hook up with girls, just so I can, translate this to normie talk for the people who aren't really tapped in. You're saying that it's actually the case that it's easier for somebody to hook up with a girl out of his league than to get in a relationship with a girl out of his league, correct?
yeah, 100%, bro, 100%. It's easy.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know actually. I haven't really thought about it from that perspective.
Okay, don't
What do
think.
you guys?
Look at the couples and look at your own life and look at your friend's life, right? Look at the times that they've gotten success, and what you'll see, and this is true not just in my experience, but my friend's experience as well. That for a marginal guy, anyone can get lucky. Anyone can luck out once. And if you're in a club in the moment and it's really rigged in your favor because it just so happens that it's saturated with girls that night and there's barely any guys, and then a girl's really into you and you've been talking to her and she's really in the moment, even if she's above your level, then she might think, oh, I'm really into it right now. I'm going to go with this guy. I might as well do it. Screw it. I'm in the moment, right?
Actually, yeah, I think I agree. Actually, now
Yeah,
that I think about it,
exactly.
I know plenty of cases, plenty of guys who are like ugly and short, and they've had cases where they've hooked up with girls who are better looking than them. But as far as relationships, it's like
Exactly.
95% looks matched. Yeah, yeah, that's
Exactly.
true. I can't
See?
lie.
And
That's
I'm the
very true.
only person,
You changed my
correct me
mind
if
on
I'm
that.
wrong,
Yeah, that's true.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm the only person that has fought with this. Me and my friend came up with this a year ago because, we listened to these guys in the space who have been saying, like, oh, it's easier to get a relationship. So you just need to offer security in a relationship with her. But no, it's not true. It's way easier to get lucky. And
Wait. Somebody proposed a rebuttal here. He actually kind of made a good point. He said, Wheat Waffles is wrong. It's way harder to hook up with a girl for a one night stand because it's entirely based on looks, but it's easier for a relationship if
yeah,
it's a
and
warm
that's the
approach.
argument.
What do you think about that?
That's what you hear. That's the argument. But when you look at the couples and when you look at the guys who have occasionally got with these girls, you see the opposite. And I promise anyone who's had an experience knows this is true. And I can guarantee you one thing, and I know this is true because of the nature of his comment and what he's described, is that he's just a keyboard warrior who's sitting on his laptop, no real world experience. He's not exposure maxed and done a thousand active approaches and 10,000 passive approaches by just walking around clubs for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end every Saturday night. He's not done that. So he's not seen what can be possible, right? He's not been in the real world. I have. And I know what really goes on. And this is the most interesting part, which I even went out with a girl and she confirmed this is true. This is a girl that I went out with for a solid 4 months, and she confirmed this to me because I was explaining it to her, and I was saying like, yeah, a girl who's like a 6 or a 7, then if she's like drunk on a night out or just not completely drunk but like had a few drinks and she's really in the moment, and then there's this guy below her looks level who is chatting her up, and then she's really in the mood, then she might go home with him. And then she was like, yeah, that's believable. Like some of my friends have done that before. And then I was like, yeah. And then she's gonna wake up in the morning and think, actually that was a mistake. The guy that I want for a relationship needs to be more attractive than this. So that was a one-time thing. It was just because I was feeling it in the moment, and I'm not gonna go with this guy again. I'm gonna ghost him. And then, do you know what she said? She said,
What did she say?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that makes sense. That's exactly how it is. That's even how it is for me. She confirms that if she's going to go out with a guy seriously for a relationship, then he needs to have good looks. He needs to have better looks. Because if she's just feeling it in the moment, then you're like, screw it, I might as well do it. But when it comes to the relationship,
Yeah, but
then
but that's where you kind of debunk yourself there when you say she's feeling it in the moment. How could she possibly feel it in the moment if she doesn't have visceral attraction to that particular person's
because
looks?
it's the
Like that's
the
what I don't
because it's
understand.
because it's the environment, it's the situation, it's the chemicals that she's got in her body if she's
But
been
according to the
drinking,
BP, like
and
environment and situation doesn't change attraction. That's kind of cope, right?
sorry.
Like the environment and the situation wouldn't really change her attraction for a guy. I guess you could make an argument if she's drunk or she's had a couple, drinks or whatever, she may lower her
Yeah,
standards
and
just like
that's the
guys do. But
situation. Because what it comes down to is a micro MM. Like I said this in a stream about a year ago, but there's two types of mentality max. It's micro MM and macro MM. And MM stands for mentality max. So uh, what you'll often see is that macro MM, which is associated with long-term relationship, like that's very consistent. Like it doesn't fluctuate from a day-to-day basis. That she wants a relationship, and there's a guy that she's looking at, and it doesn't matter what her mood in the morning or in the evening is, she still wants this guy, and that's usually going to be the premium guy. But when it comes to micro MM, then that fluctuates like crazy. It can go from 1 out of 10 to 10 out of 10, and it's all dependent on the environment, the market rigness, how
No,
she's
no,
feeling
yeah,
in
I
the
see
moment,
that
the time
perspective,
of
but also
day.
like to give a bit of pushback on that, I would actually argue it's easier for somebody who is out of the girl, like let's say she's out of his league. I would imagine it's easier for him to get a relationship with her than to like let's say that we have a guy who's, average looking, high inhib, doesn't have the best game or whatever, game is cope, whatever. High inhib, average looking, average height, right? He would probably have a better chance getting a relationship with a girl purely based on his money and his status, like beta buxing, than he would to hook up with her. Because what is her incentive to hook up with a guy who's like completely below her league?
Because
So I
she's high
actually
micro
think
MM
it's
in that moment.
easier.
That's the simple reason. And look, look, look. You can say you started off your previous point just there. What you said is, I could argue this, I could argue that. You can argue what you want, but what I'm talking about is what do real couples in the real world look like, and what stories have people told me? And I promise you, if you ask guys, marginal guys who have hooked up with an upper marginal or even very occasional premium girl in their lifetime, the story, well, at least the stories I've heard, but I'm sure a lot of the guys' stories will go something along the lines of this, like, yeah, it was after the Christmas party, or it was at the prom, and we were both drunk, and then it happened. She was just really in the moment for it. But then I tried messaging her in the morning, and she fell off, and it didn't start. It didn't lead to anything. So I'm quite annoyed by that. That's what you'll often hear from the guys. And the reason is because she was feeling it in the moment, but then she didn't want anything long term with the guy. Um, and from the girls' perspective, if you ask girls about their friends, about the guys that they've hooked up with, the ones that they've questioned the most, where a girl says, "Oh yeah, like my friend, she made a mistake. She went with Jacob last night, and she wasn't, feeling it, but she still did it anyway." Then if I've asked her, okay, but then why did Rebecca go with Jacob then if she doesn't like him? And then she will say, "Oh, it's because she felt horny in the moment and she was just into it. So she thought, why the hell not? It's only once." But then she regretted it in the
Yeah,
morning.
yeah, I
That
hear a
is
lot of
what you are going to
cases
hear.
like that as well.
I promise you, if you've had these conversations, this is what you hear. But, Rebecca, the upper marginal girl, will never get into a relationship with Jacob, the sub-marginal guy or marginal guy. It's not going to happen. And she only did it because that's how she felt in the moment.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Actually, I see both perspectives. I think you're on the mark there. You can definitely kind of do both. Like you can get lucky and hook up with a girl out of your league, and you can also compensate big time with like fame, money, and status, and get a girl out of your league. Now, obviously, the percentage of people who will do the latter are a lot
Do
less
you see the
because there's
couples for
less
that though?
people.
Do you see the couples for that? Be honest. Outside of Miami,
Couples for
outside of New
relationships.
York,
Well, look at celebrity
outside of
couples,
Jeff
for
Bezos,
example.
outside of Miami and outside of Jeff Bezos, do you see sub-marginal or junk guys um, getting with premium girls, beta boxing for it? Do you see these couples? Be honest.
Well, it depends on their sort of relative like status and like are they famous? Are they DJs? Are they like are they
I'm
popping on
asking, do
social
you see
media? Do
them?
they have a lot
Not
of
not
money?
online. Do you see them in your own life? Do you see them in the real world? Do you
I
see
don't see a lot
primal
of famous people
relationships
in
where
general in the
sub-marginal
real world,
guys
bro.
have
I don't see a lot of
compensated?
people with high status in general in the real world, so I can't really answer that question.
Well, there you go. So if you can't speak for it in your own life, guys that you've seen in the real world do it, then it's clearly a non-factor.
Yeah, to be
I'll
clear, I'm not
remind you.
I'm
I'll
not
remind you. I'll
claiming that this
remind
is
you.
a common thing.
The question is, do you see in your own life guys who have worse looks than the girl, who have gotten that girl in a primal relationship, and you've identified the reason is because he's compensated with status and money? Have you seen those couples? Be honest.
Yes, I have, but I can't say I've seen them often. Like
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say
exactly.
I see this
They're
every day.
extremely rare. And be honest with this question. What have you seen more of? Those examples, or examples where a guy has gotten here a girl once, um, who has been above his looks level purely due to luck and timing, and the girl was in the mood.
Yeah, yeah, I see the latter more often for
Way
sure, but
more,
that's also because
way more. It's not even close,
yeah,
bro.
but that's also because I'm around spaces like I'm young, I'm 22, so I'm around people who hook up more than get in relationships. So like the people in my circle, the people that I know, a lot of them aren't in relationships. So I don't have a huge sample size, and I think this is the problem. You tell me that I'm saying, you're arguing this and you're arguing and claiming that. Well, our back and forth seems to be based on like, oh, I see this. Do you see this? And it's like, well, it's hard to statistically quantify what we see. This isn't a good sample size. Like going, like we can all just say, oh yeah, like you could say wheat waffles. I go out and I see this particular thing. Someone in my chat can say, well, no, I actually see the complete opposite.
Yeah, well,
Like
it varies
everybody's
based on the
talking about
market.
what they see here.
It varies based on the market. Like I'm sure if you go to Miami and you looked at some of the couples there, you would see junk guys with premium girls. You would see that. I promise you, if you walked around some of the streets. But the difference is none of these are primal. They're all just pay-to-play relationships. So they do happen, and it's based on the market that you're in. And it's a matter of fact that if you look at some of the guys who live in these markets, if you ask them what is important, what works, they will have a different scope, and it's all based on what is relevant in that market. And for example, Alex playing with fire, he's very big on status and money. I've heard him mention in streams multiple times. He said like, yeah, it is very possible and easy, especially in Miami, to get girls with status and money. Like I've done it a lot of times by using my clout, or my friend has done it a lot of the times by appearing as a beta box. And that might be relevant for Miami because that is like the currency in that market. But in other places, it's not the case. It's a different thing that is relevant.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Well, PWF also advocates for game and stuff, which I'm sure you completely disagree with.
Yeah, but I
You
think
said
that
you've
there's
tried. I'm
I
curious
think
to
that
know.
there's disingenuous intentions for when he's saying that because he's got a business model that kind of relies on that concept being true. So I think that there's potential financial disingenuity that's you know causing him to say those things. I can't
Yeah,
prove
well,
that's true, but
I think
that's
that's
my
an
opinion.
easy cop out to say like, oh, this particular person has a financial incentive. I think that, for example, looks maxing works perfectly fine and it gets people great results. And there's people selling looks maxing related stuff. And I think, some of them have bad products, some of them have good products, but we can't really judge the weight of an idea based on financial incentive. Surely sometimes they overlap, but I am a believer, like, even if you take away anything that I sell and all I have is this channel, my opinion won't change on the importance of game, the importance of social skills, the importance of trying to mimic somebody who is low in hib. I do think that, if we're looking at somebody in between like the 4 to 6 range, the biggest determining factor, let's assume that all of them are in the same market rigness. The people who will succeed the most, I guarantee you this, have the lowest inhib, go out the most,
No,
like
but why
get the
why are
most
you fixing
exposure.
those variables though? Why are you fixing the market?
Because you
Um,
have to fix variables to see if one particular variable has an effect on something. Like we can't just start messing with all the variables because then we're going to get confused. We're not going to know whether something has an impact or not. That's why I'm fixing the other variables.
okay, that's fair enough. But I promise you, if you don't fix the market and if you don't fix the exposure, um, and you don't fix the inhib, then you will see that the market and exposure has a way greater
Yeah, wait, hold
importance.
on. We just got a donation from Face IQ. Appreciate you, bro. Yeah, guys, I was gonna
Wait, on
ask
my
Weed if he
stream or
could
your
join the
stream?
call, but he wants to leave this. Wait, what do you say?
On my stream or your stream?
My stream, my stream.
All
I'm
right,
on
okay.
my stream right
Oh,
now.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, but go on though, go on. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, so like I thought of an analogy for this. Let's say that there's and this is going like deeper. Like I've just thought of this off the cuff, so I don't know if it's a good analogy yet, but basically, I feel like um, humans in general, especially in this space, are drawn to think that like game and social skills and pre-selection are really relevant because in terms of how we've evolved, your exposure in terms of how many girls you could talk to was capped at like 1 to 200. Like that would be the most amount of exposure you'd ever have in your life because the communities were so small. So then we've kind of evolved to think like, oh, you know, I need to develop this personality. I need to have confidence. I need to have social skills. I need to be funny because every exposure is extremely important. We're basically talking about an apple tree where there's one tree and you need to pick the apple and there's going to be low hanging fruit, there's going to be high hanging fruit, and then a lot of the low hanging fruit is already going to be taken. And you can try to develop your skills to climb up an apple tree and get the fruit at the top, but that's going to take a lot of effort. But that in those times when humans were evolving, that might have been your only choice because there was
Okay,
only
yeah,
one
yeah,
tree.
okay.
But
That's a
nowadays
really
we
good
live in a different
direction.
situation where in any given city, you've got 5 clubs to go to, you've got 10 bars to go to, or even from a country to country, city by city basis, you've got 100 cities to go to, 100 countries to go to, and you can move to any one of them, and the markets are going to be so much easier. And if you just amplify the exposure by 10x or 100x, then you're going to bump into that low hanging fruit where you can just be like, oh, thank you. And that's a really nice apple and it's on the bottom branch. How easy was that? We don't need to worry about this, like trying to get the best possible situation because when you find markets in the world where there's literally girls giving away S tier and they're giving the wives away in certain countries, then why are you trying to spend your time, barking up the wrong trees when it's just so difficult? There's no point in it. It's just wasting energy.
Sure. Yeah, I actually like the direction you took the conversation there, where you said that, as humans, we're sort of evolved and we're wired to believe that things like confidence and pre-selection and all that stuff is important. And I see, yeah, I've made a community post about this. I see a lot of parallels between, black pill and atheism, for example. Like, there's a lot of people who make arguments for atheism and they say things like, there's like arguments for the existence of God and then they'll debunk it and stuff. And the black pill is kind of similar. They want to get like boil down to the truth, right? The hardcore truth about the world. And my question is, would society, like in the case of atheism, and I'm gonna draw the parallel to black pill in a second, would the world be a better place if most people believed in God, or would it be a better place if most people didn't believe in God? Similarly, would the world be a better place if most people had faith, even if this conviction is flawed, even if this faith is unbased, it's not based on anything? Would the world be a better place if people believe that they could do something about their situation and they can take action to improve?
Yeah,
They
bro.
subscribe to this overarching black pill narrative, which is that, oh, there's nothing you can do. It's all looks like it. It seems that the theme of the BP, I'm not even talking about the accuracy of the claims, just the theme of it seems to draw people into defeatism and turn them into these passive, weak individuals, these people who don't have any, like, who don't feel like they have any autonomy over their own lives. I feel like that's what it does. So even if we're looking at it purely based on like which one is correct, okay, fine. I could say the black pill is more true than the red pill. But what would be better for people to believe in is my question. Like, what would be better for people to subscribe to give themselves this narrative that, confidence matters, how much exposure I get matters, what I do in my life matters, or that it's just over and my genetics determine everything.
So is this basically a Pascal? Is it called Pascal's parable?
No, I don't think this is similar to Pascal's wager. This is a different sort of argument I'm trying to make.
Well, it
Pascal's
sounds.
wager is about going to heaven. It's like if you believe in God, but he turns out to be true, you end up in heaven. If you believe in God, he turns out to not be true, you nothing happens. If you don't believe in God and he turns out to be true, you go to hell. So the best thing to do in this case would be to believe in God. But Pascal's wager has a lot of issues, like the existence of multiple religions, for example. But this argument I'm making here is like, what would be better for somebody to internalize, to believe, to like, what would get them better results in their life?
Okay, yeah, I understand it. It kind of similar. It kind of sounds similar to Pascal's wager, but I see that there is a slight difference. I would say that what works best for people is whichever maximizes expected value, whatever maximizes the chances that you're going to be able to find your future wife, get the marriage and family that you want, or if you're looking for more short term for the rest of your life, then what maximizes that? And the primal versions of that, not the BS versions of that. That's what I'd say is most irrelevant. And based on my experience, based on what I've seen in the real world, I would say that the BP, my version of the BP, not any of these pseudoscientific logicians who have zero real world experience, the types that say like, oh, you just need to get a relationship with her, bro, and then you're going to be able to get the girl above your looks match, bro. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, even though the logic might be sound to say, if you provide security for her and a reason for her to get with you, and you meet in a warm environment, then it's going to be great. Like, based on the real world, I've just not seen that. So, what it comes down to is, I think that guys need to think about what's going to maximize their expected value, what's going to maximize the expected value for getting the future wife, the highest quality version of that future wife, their mental health, their mental well-being, both in the short term and long term, where it's the least rigged. Like, all of these variables grow into like the ideology about what you should pursue. Because if you're maximizing the expected value for your own life and your future family, then I think that's what's the most relevant. Do you understand?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a good response. I just seem to, from the people who I've spoken to, people in my comment section, the black pill does take a lot of people in the wrong direction. If somebody is high IQ and is able to like discern and use the BP to his advantage, and he genuinely gets better results employing like a more wheat waffles kind of strategy than like a traditional PUA thing, then I think he should go for it. I don't have problems like just to make something clear. Most of my problems with the BP aren't with the BP itself, it's with the behavior of black pillars. It's with the things they say, the way they act. Like, they just come off as, they strike me as extremely weird for the most part. And I'm sure you would agree with me, even though a lot of them are in your audience. You agree with me that a lot of them just have these completely, for lack of a better term, chronically online worldviews
No,
that just don't
100%,
hold
bro.
in reality,
No,
and that are
100%.
stopping
And
them
I've
from
met
getting
two
the
types.
results that they want.
I would say that there are two types of BP guys. There's doers, and then there's chronically onliners. And unfortunately, it seems that there's only like an 80-20 split. Um, that only 20% are doers, and the other 80% are just, raging in the comment sections and coming up with the most convoluted theories about what works and what doesn't. And I'm in the minority. And I've met guys who are similar to me as well, and they're the only people that I make my friends. The only people that I make my friends are EV maximizers and ones that are on the same mission as me. Because they're in the real world and they're putting in the effort, and they're treating the BP like a thing to follow that translates to actions, rather than just a circle jerk where you're just coming up with all of these convoluted theories, and they all sound smart and they all sound logical and they all sound high IQ, but in practice, like, you've just spent the last 6 hours writing a essay, or spamming on
Yeah, that's what
one
you
of the
see on
Looksmax forums.
looksmax.org and all these
Yeah,
other like forums and
looksmax.org and all of
stuff.
these kind of things. Like, but how much
Yeah.
exposure have you generated in the last 6 hours? How much research have you done into what are the best markets? How much time have you spent booking flights to various markets, seeing how many Tinder matches you get in each market? How many times have you spent looking at the couples in the real world, seeing which phenos that are the same as you, which girls that they are with? Like, that's the kind of thing that I'm doing. I'm looking at actionable steps in order to maximize my EV. And I've made friends out of these guys as well. I could show you them if push came to shove. And, we've had a lot of success. But at the same time, I've seen these other guys who are EV maximizers with regard to being chronically online and raging in the comments and being on looksmax.org. They do no value to their life. And if I'm honest, like, these types of guys sound the worst in terms of mental health, because, like, they're so fixated upon all of these theories, they haven't touched grass. They are just spending all of this time in this circle jerk. And the worst part about it is that a lot of them are actually decent looks. Like, the only out that I would give to these guys who are, spending hours and hours per day in these areas, like, not generating any EV is when their looks are junk. Like, you know, there's no saving them. And even if they did exposure max, it's just going to ruin their mental health, and it's not even going to be worth it because they're just going to get F tier, F tier, F tier, F tier.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question. Regardless of market, what do you think is a looks level to where it would be over for you pretty much no matter what market we put you in? Like what sort of looks range are we
Ooh,
discussing here?
I don't
Because
know
I
actually
actually think
because
some sub fives, like a guy who is like a 4.5 can actually get some results in an easier market. I truly
yeah,
think it is even especially if he's tall.
no, yeah, that's true. And I would also throw in an extra point there that JBW, no matter what the looks are, has inherent value in itself, and you're going to get results no matter what your looks are.
That's
And the
brutal for
proof of
ethnics
this,
like me.
once again, look at the couples. And if you go to Thailand or the Philippines, you're going to see 68-year-old guys with 35-year-old women, local girls, right? And
That's
just the
based.
very fact that these guys are 68 and overweight and ugly, and they're still getting girls who are decades younger than them, that highlights that you know my point that JBW has value in itself. If you want to debate the primality of the primarily, yeah, you know what I'm trying to say, the primalness of these relationships, then that's a
Yeah.
different story. Some of them might be play to play. I'm not too sure. I've not been there. But obviously, we've seen online, like from the TikTok videos, the live streams, that these couples do exist. And maybe that's an element of green card maxing as well. But even putting those things aside, we know it's easier in these markets, like just because the competition is way less and the mentality max of the girls is way higher in these places. And I'd find it very hard to believe that there's a number of guys, like it's going to be less than 1% that has worse looks than these 68-year-old JBW guys who are going to the Philippines. So if those guys have done it, then why haven't you yourself? But the problem is that the barriers to entry are really high in terms of making that kind of move, because we're not talking about moving from um, North America to Eastern Europe, or North America to Argentina, like which are quite developed. Like in the Philippines, like the electorate works one day, it doesn't the next day. So they're quite far behind in terms of development, and you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices in other regards.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Sorry, bro. I'm just kind of like in between reading chat and listening to you right now because there's so many. There's like a fake rehab room in my chat, fake IQ, fake aesthetics waiting. So I'm just kind of trying to moderate this stuff.
Okay, well,
But
if they're fake versions, then I would have no problem banning them, because that's impersonation, and that's even goes against YouTube's terms. So
yeah,
if,
yeah,
if,
there's
if
just a lot of people spamming.
yeah, if they're fake
Um,
versions, it's impersonation, and not only can that like get themselves in trouble, but it can get the you know original creators in trouble as well, because
right.
if it gets reported to YouTube that like Rehab Room made certain comments on your stream, but it was just a fake version, then now Rehab Room's at stake, like, and they might put him on the chopping
Yeah.
block. S- Sorry.
Like you look you don't because have uh,
Hello.
you hear me?
Hello. Hello.
Yo, can you hear me?
It's breaking up a bit. Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you fine.
You can hear me, okay?
Yeah, yeah, can you hear me now?
Um, your sound's being really questionable.
Wait, let me check OBS.
Wait,
Hold
it
on.
seems to be fine now. That was a first clear sentence. Speak again.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, my stream says they're fine, so I think the audio issues might be on your end.
Okay, maybe my Wi-Fi just bugged out a little bit. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, so I was saying, like, what is your looks maxing advice? Is it in line with like carnivore, face IQ, surgery, raw primal diet, or like do you advocate for a different looks maxing technique?
Um, I've only watched a few of Face IQ's videos. Not the ones about like carnivore diet. The other ones about like face analysis and stuff like that. But to give my honest opinion, like I don't even believe in looks maxing that much. I think that it's mostly a cope. Um, I think
Really? That's a hot take.
yeah, no, genuinely, and I've even said this. I've said this for years. I've said that your looks maxing journey can only go so far, and even when I've advertised products like looks maxing on my channel, I've said like, and I've even said in the reports. If you check the reports that I've sold to people on my channel, I will say this isn't going to make you a Chad, but you might be able to go up by a point or maybe 1.5 points. Like it doesn't make that big of an impact. And once you've got rid of the low hanging fruit, losing weight, like lean maxing, then I don't think that there's much to do for looks maxing. That's what I've seen. Like it only goes so far. What I've seen has been way more relevant to my life. In fact, there's been two things that have been no three things that have been extremely relevant to my life in terms of leveling up my success from shit to magnitudes better. And those have been uh, the low hanging fruit of looks maxing, which a lot of people have already discovered. Is going, from submarginal to marginal or marginal to upper marginal. So fixing the obvious things such as getting rid of a crap haircut or style maxing and lowering your body fat percentage. They're like the most relevant ones, like the big things that you can see. Um, not like how you shape your eyebrows. That's minuscule. I'm talking about the big fruit here, the ones that to your overall image are very visible. Because going from clothes that are look terrible to nice fitting clothes, ones that suit your frame well, that makes a big difference because it literally takes up 80% of your body. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is exposure maxing. If you go from zero exposure to high exposure, then you'll see your results literally go up by the multiple that how much you've increased your exposure. So if you got 3 times as much exposure compared to the 1 times amount of exposure, then you're going to get 3 times the amount of results. That's the most
I
obvious
mean,
one.
Face IQ made a pretty good point. He said that, if you're open to procedures and surgery, looks maxing is far from a cope. And I would agree. I think that some people with a little bit of surgical intervention can ascend pretty far. I've seen guys go from 4 to a 6. Face IQ has definitely seen guys go from a 4 to a 6, maybe a 5 to a 6. Can it turn you into a Chad if you don't have the genetic base for it? Probably not. But I also think things like soft maxing are really important as well. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are overweight, who carry a lot of facial fat, have a lot of acne. Obviously, this stuff is really basic, but losing some pounds,
Yeah.
going to the gym, just basic red pill stuff that actually can ascend you if your baseline is pretty weak and you
Oh,
don't have that stuff going for you. But if
bro,
you're soft max, if your skin is clear, if your hair is on point, then surgery is really the only thing left.
bro, I couldn't agree more. Like, I could show you emails of guys who are 25% body fat uh, asking me about surgeries. I could show you those
Yeah,
emails.
that's cope.
Yeah,
That's
I
cope.
know. And like, so the first thing I'll say is you shouldn't even be asking about surgeries unless you're at least sub 15%. That's my first point when it comes to surgeries.
Yeah.
And based on
Dude,
the
lean is
data,
law, man.
they've got the data for this. They've shown that in our age range, like 18 to 30, it's something like only 10% of guys are sub 15% body fat. It's really, really low. Most of the guys are above that. So, why are people even talking about surgeries when so few of them are sub 15% body fat? That's the first point. Um, and as for the second point, I would say that when it comes to like how far you're going deep into the BP, I think it is what sounds more extreme to you. Um, Surgery maxing or geo maxing. And to me, I've never been a fan of surgery maxing. Like I do think that it's a bit extreme, especially when it comes to like marginal changes. Like I'm not being funny, but a lot of you guys would have heard of clavicular. He's blown up in the last several
Or
months.
testicular, as I like to call them.
What?
Testicular.
Testicular, yeah. And he's 19 years old, I'm pretty sure. And like personally, I think that he's premium. I think he's a Chad. Like, I think
Yeah,
he's got
I think he's definitely up there, and
yeah,
you
he's
know,
got
his desire to
premium
do a double
face,
jaw surgery.
premium pheno, premium frame. He's like upper marginal height, but still above average. And he's talking about getting jaw surgery or something. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I
Yeah,
think that's
he plans on
completely
doing a double
unthinkable.
jaw surgery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I just think that's it's either rage bait to like get the retention and views for his videos and like get hype about it and get him being spoke about in other people's channels who are in a similar niche, or like he's serious about it. And I just think it's insane. Like the kid's 19 years old, and your facial development hasn't even fully finished by that point. Well, for him, maybe it's a
And
different
I think
story
he's an
because
example of how
he's
looks are
sped it
kind of
up. Like he looks older
overrated.
than 19. I was shocked when I heard he was 19. Like he looks older than me, and I'm 24, turning next week. So um, yeah, but like for
Yeah, I
him,
mean,
when he's
Clav is
already
also an
premium
example
face,
of how looks aren't everything, dude. I think he's a perfect example of how, you know, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he would agree that he's not the most neurotypical. So like, you know, just being somebody who is on his looks level, you know, it's his results should be better. Like I'm not trying
no,
to
but this
like
is the
talk
main
down
thing.
on him or anything. I'm
This
just
is what I
saying.
was just about to get into. That he would see his results get up way more if he just geomaxed, because I'm pretty sure he's living in LA at the moment, which
Yeah,
is an
LA's
extremely
fucked, dude.
which is an extremely rigged market. Um, and how do you know this? Well, what I've been saying the whole stream. Look at the couples. Look at who he's with. Like, I'm not any fan of slandering or making negative remarks for the sake of it or just doing hit pieces, but I'm sure I'm not the only one when I say that he mugs the girl that he's with. Like, I don't know if he's still with her, but she's above average. She's pretty. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that she's on his level, and I think that that's largely a result of him being in a rigged market. And if he was in a non-rigged market, then he would be getting S tier from looks matches. I'm not going to say where those places are because I'm I'm in one of those places right now, and I don't want people rigging it for me because like the whole point of being in a non-rigged market is that it's unknown territory. Um, but I talk about it in my videos. Uh, so
Yeah, and just to be clear, guys, the whole reason why geomaxing works isn't because, you know, the women there are different. Like that's a common misconception. Oh, the women are just different, and like maybe to some negligible degree, but the real difference in geomaxing is that your competition is different. You know,
no,
because a
I
lot of
would say it's
blackpillers will say,
mainly MM. I disagree. Based on my experience of geomaxing, I would say MM is number one, and then competition is
what is
second.
MM?
Mentality max.
Mentality?
Mentality max, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, but I'm talking about even in the long-term relationship
Yeah,
sense.
both. Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Macro MM varies massively. Like, I'll tell you how it
but do
is
you not
straight
think the
for
difference in
the
competition
audience as
makes a
well. I'm
big
not going to tell you the
factor? Like
places,
different average heights.
right?
Sorry, yeah, go on, go
I'm not
on.
going to tell the places that are least rigged, but I will tell you the factors that makes a place least rigged. If you want to know the places, then look at my videos. They're pay to play videos, but that's how it's going to be because I'm not going to give out this information for free. And you can say like, oh, that's paywalling, but I'm not going to have the non-rigged places get rigged just for free. That's not how it happens. So if you want to know the non-rigged places, then you're gonna have to go through the paywalls. That's just how it's gonna be. But just to tell you the free version of what makes a rigged place versus a non-rigged place, is you got to ask yourself this question: is the place that I'm living in, do the women want careers or do they want to be wives? That's what you got to ask yourself. And the places that you live are going to highlight that. And in fact, there was data released a few days ago which showed this. And this is why blue state America is way more rigged than red state America. Because for red state women, 20% said that marriage and raising family is important to them. And they see it as an important goal to their life in terms of fulfillment and what they want in the future, which is quite low. But that just shows how rigged it is globally, like in the West. But as for blue state women, women who voted for Kamala Harris in the last election, just 6% said those things were important to their life. And in fact, 50% said that the number one thing that was important to them was career and making money. So that just highlights, like, why the blue state areas are so rigged. And that's not even including
Yeah.
the health that these women are in, and what the damage that they've done to their bodies. Because I went to Kansas last month, and I didn't see a single woman with tattoos. Like, I went to a football game, and the average woman was quite pretty in this place because no one had tattoos. The young girls were in shape. Like, obviously, obesity is higher in the older demographics, but in terms of the younger girls, the average beauty is very, very high. You're not going to see the same in these left-wing areas because the number of women who vape, who smoke, who have tattoos, who are overweight are far, far higher. And that's not even including the fact that they don't want to be wives to begin with. Like, they're only focusing on themselves. What do you think?
No, I think that assessment is spot on. Like women who are career oriented, who want to work on themselves, who want to delay the long-term relationships, you tend to have more of those kinds of women in blue states, and you tend to have more of those kinds of women in liberal areas. And that probably does explain to a large degree why dating is so rigged in those places. Um,
It's not even
you know,
close. Like, saying rigged
it's
is an
yeah, it's
understatement. It's magnitudes more rigged.
magnitude's different. Yeah, it's all about the culture of the place and like you
Yeah.
said, the mentality
As
of
I
the women
said,
in that particular
as I
area.
said, do they want to be wives, or do they want careers? That's what you gotta ask yourself. I'm not gonna tell you the
Yeah,
places.
hold
You can
on.
find that out. I list them in my pay-to-play videos. But if you want to know the short answer that you can figure it out yourself, then you got to ask yourself: do they want to be wives, or do they want careers?
Yeah, hold on. We got some. I got some chats that I want to read out. $5 from Ted11. Thank you, brother. In my opinion, the black pill, if not doomeristic, is better. Guys get played, scammed, go into debt, chasing the rainbow versus accepting their cards and going from there. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, if
If
you're
you internalize
sub-marginal
the
or
DP
below,
correctly,
if you're marginal or above, that's not true. If you're marginal in a non-rigged market, then you're fine.
okay. $5 from AJ. Lean is the only law. I'm 6'1", money maxed, car maxed with M5 comp 2022, but fat as shit, and I get no women. Anything else is cope.
He's in a
Very
rigged
true,
market.
guys.
If he gets no rigged
Well, yeah, he's
market,
in a rigged market, but also being lean is super underrated.
yeah,
Like
if I'm
everybody
not
should
being
be
funny, if he's
sub
lean and 6'1",
15%.
like, okay, you know how these guys conveniently leave out their face score as well, because so many of these guys who have sent me emails over the years, they said, like, oh yeah, I'm rich, I'm 6'1", and I'm jacked as well, and then I look at the face pictures and I'm like, hold on a second, but you're submarginal, so why are you trying to advertise that all of these other compensating factors, like girls are just gonna reject you based on your face?
Do you think that somebody who's a 5 out of 10 face and 6'2" would outperform somebody who's a 6 out of 10 face but 5'10"?
I would say they're equal. It's mainly going to depend on the market rigness for how well they do and how much exposure they have. Like, if the 5'10",
Okay.
6 out of 10 guy is in a non-rigged market and exposure maxes like crazy, he's going to have so many chances he's not going to know what to do with. But if the 6 out of 10 guy if the 5 out of 10 guy who's above 6 foot is in a rigged market like LA, then he's just a nobody. Like, he's no one. Like, you're not gonna have a chance. Like,
Yeah.
you want to find a wife in this place. The women don't even want to be that. Like, how are you gonna find a wife in LA or Seattle when the women don't even want to be that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Would you consider yourself like soft maxed right now? Like there's nothing you
Yeah,
could do to
definitely,
ascend further?
100%. Oh yeah, by the
What
way,
about
bro, I
dyeing
might
your
need to
eyebrows
switch
and
over
your
to the other
hair?
mic
What about
because
dyeing your hair and eyebrows?
my laptop is on 1%, so I want to charge it up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just reading chat right now. Wheat came to my Clash Royale stream and rated me a Chad Light, so I'll take it. Is that true? Okay, I think he's gone right now, guys. Wheat Waffles overrated so hard, holy. I'm 5'3" and 3 out of 10. Why don't I get any girls? WTF, you're MTN, sorry to tell you. Wait, what does Wheat think he is? Pretty sure he says he's MTN, no? I rank above a 6'6" dude with a good skull. Why? Because I will take it with no mercy.
Wait, can you hear me? I
If
don't
you
know if
get
the mic
below.
is transferred over. Can you hear me or not?
Oh yeah, I could hear you now. I could hear you now.
Okay, so it's transferred automatically. Well, let me just check the OBS to see if the mic's transferred. All right. Yeah, it looks like it has. The mic quality might be a little bit worse, but
That's fine. I still hear you just as well.
okay, cool. What was the question directly about me?
Yeah, the question was, do you think you're fully softmax right now, or do you think that dyeing your hair and eyebrows would ascend you further?
I already did dye my hair and eyebrows.
Like dye them black.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
Wait, YBC,
Oh,
are you on my new Instagram account or old Instagram account?
I don't know. I think I'm on your new one.
Yeah, then that's what I look like now.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, that's see guys, we Waffles is softmax right now. I see that there's some disagreements between you and your viewers about your own looks. Like some people, you would rate yourself a 6 out of 10, but people are saying, "Oh no, Wheat's a 5, he's an MTN." So, do you think that you are correct or your chat is correct?
Well, I'm not going to debate these people. They can do whatever they want. But I'm just going to let my looks do the talking. I'm going to let my actions do the talking. And I'm going to let the couple that I end up with is the evidence for that. And you guys can make out of it what you will.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, there you guys go. A question answered. Yeah, I'm just reading the chats right now. I think we had a really good discussion. If there's anything else that you want to like dive into and talk about, I'm down. If not, we could just kind of read chat and just reply to people.
Yeah, we can just reach out for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Somebody said, let me see. Oh, yeah, Face IQ said Wheat Waffles is a 5. I have done a full analysis on him.
Wait, I've seen. Just give me one comment here from a guy with a non-English name,
Okay.
non-European name, has said Wheat is a 3 out of 10. No ginger is above 5. So whoever sent that comment, please send me your pictures. I'm more than happy to advertise them on the stream right now. We could bring you up, and we could see how much of a success you would have in England. We could even do a Tinder experiment. The person who left that comment, we could do a Tinder experiment of how much demand you would have from English girls in England, from a person with a non-European name. Bearing in mind that if you're non-JBW in England, it's extremely taxed against you. Like, I've even told you this yourself, YBC. And I don't mean this in an offensive way at all. Like, I was just being honest with you. Like, and first of all, I think that you're very above average in terms of looks and overall SMV. Like, you're above average face and you've got good height.
Thank you, bro.
Very above
Appreciate
average height. But in England, you would struggle a lot just because of the taxes against non-JBWs.
Dude, that makes me want to go. Yo, let's record a Manchester Day game. Let's see what
Yeah,
happens.
I know.
I
Yeah, we was
think,
thinking about that, weren't we? We can do it
yeah,
in the
yeah,
future.
yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't doubt you that you've got success elsewhere. You've been in different markets to where I've been, so you've seen different levels of success. But in England, I just think you would struggle a lot.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that, man. Let's see I take that as a challenge. If I do go and I end up struggling and like I can't get any girls or whatever, then I'll just be, 10%, 20% more black pilled. I'm always down to, do these kinds of things. So yeah, you might end up converting me to full BP if I go to Manchester and just get brutalized and get like no results there. I don't mind changing my opinion. That's what people don't
Yeah.
understand. Like people think that I'm set in stone in my ways. I'm open to growth. I'm open to having my opinion changed. I'm 22. There's a lot that I can learn. I don't claim to know everything. So, yeah, but that comment was really funny. The 3 out of 10 one. It's funny because the people who rate so harshly never show their own faces. So you
Yeah,
never
bro,
get to see what
legit.
that person looks like.
I know. Like, and they never have receipts. Oh, bro. This is the biggest BP. This is the biggest BP you'll ever hear. And this isn't a BP that I thought of myself. This is what my friend told me. He said that criticism only ever comes from below and it doesn't come from above. And I'm not even capping. Like, this has been true. Like, in the example that he gave was that the ones that criticize him and always like being argumentative to him, like with regard to money and appearance, are always less attractive to him. And the ones that are always slandering him the most with regard to like doing bad with girls are always less attractive than him and do worse, right? Meanwhile, the guys that have been chats like premium guys, like when I've been out and they've seen me, like, and we've been talking about this kind of stuff, and like it's very rare that you see a BP Chad, but when it has happened, like they've usually given me good ratings, like the ratings that I would see as accurate. Like they've said that I've been upper marginal, like 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, that's what the discrepancy, that's where it lies. It's like people who are not that good looking themselves view the world from like a more critical lens because, their life experience has been mainly brutal, whereas somebody who's a Chad, he has no reason to put you down. Like he's already good looking. So he, in fact, he probably just wants to uplift you. So yeah, I agree. Chads tend to be nicer. Somebody said, can you bring up about when Wheat Waffles said looks maxing is kind of cope, but in his debate with Hamza, he rated him and Hamza the same, but Hamza does way better on Tinder with his physique. What do you think
No, he
about that?
doesn't. No, Hamza doesn't do well. No way.
So
he
you
does
think you
well.
do better than you would mog Hamza in dating apps?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, especially in England. It's not even going to be close. Like, I could do a Tinder experiment of Hamza in the UK. He would do so bad. Like, maybe it's changed because that debate was a few years ago. And, like, based on recent concurrent events, I'd say the landscape has changed where non-JBWs are suffering a lot more because of the way that, like, the political landscape has shifted in England in the last few years. But Hamza, he would do very, very bad on Tinder in England. Like, I've never seen, non-JBW tax stronger than how it's been in England. Out of all of the places I've been to, non-JBWs suffer the most. Even if you're
Yeah,
above
that's
average.
kind of brutal. But I think with Hamza's newfound status and him being a millionaire and everything, I feel like a lot of girls in the UK would recognize him. So maybe that would give him an edge.
No,
I
that
don't
would
know.
only give him PW, man. In the UK,
True,
there's no
non-primal.
pre-selection, there's no status, there's only PW. I promise you.
Wait, hold on. So you don't think pre-selection is a thing? Like you don't think if a guy is seen getting genuine attraction from a hot girl, other hot girls are gonna notice and be like, oh, this guy's more attractive. Then how do you explain like Dan Bilzerian's thing and
Depends
what
on
he
the
has
market.
going on?
Depends on the market you're in. Some markets, like you got to remember that PW and pre-selection are on the same spectrum. Like you got PW at the one end, where extra attention and extra clout lowers your chances, and then you've got on the other end where pre-selection increases your chances, and that depends on the market. And in England, if you have more of this exposure, you're gonna get criticism. Like Hamza, he's just gonna get negative labels, like the word beginning with I, the words, he's gonna get euphemisms compared to the influencer who has the initials AT. Like that's the kind of accusations he's gonna get in England. Like
Wow.
maybe in
Well, I mean, I think what you're saying makes sense because there must be a reason he went to Bali. I don't think he just went there for like the weather and I've been to Bali. It's a beautiful place and it's a lot cheaper than the UK, but I'm sure women being more accessible is definitely a part of the reason he went. Though I could be wrong. I don't know him
yeah, I would say
personally.
partially. And he even met his ex-girlfriend in that country, didn't he? Or that island. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think so. I don't really follow
but
his
YBC,
channel.
you've even said yourself that your YouTube channel was PW'd you a handful of times.
Poison the well. Well, it hasn't really done it, like definitely not to the extent that it's happened to you. In
But
fact,
it's
I
happened a
actually
few
think
times
it
though.
kind of. Yeah, well, it's happened like a couple times, but not really to a point where I couldn't recover from it. It's like the thing about it is like when women find out that I have a channel like this, at first they're like, "Oh, that's kind of weird or whatever," but it doesn't really affect how I get treated. It doesn't affect like whether I'm able to pull them or not. I feel like it's just you don't like my channel, whatever, like who cares?
Okay, yeah.
It's
Then
not the
that's
case that like
fortunate for
they
you.
find out about my channel and then they try to like sabotage me and then there's guys like throwing stuff at me, throwing bottles, like that never happens.
Yeah, no, I've never had like throwing bottles and stuff, but the accusations and the rumors have been quite common. Not like ridiculously common, like it's not anywhere near the level compared to say, like Nick Fuentes, who I'd guess, like if he when not
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
real world.
that's
Yeah,
a
like
different
if
breed.
he could go on like 3 dates with a girl, and then as soon as you tell some friends and family, like at least one person, at least one person will know.
Yeah, it's I think it's because of the nature of your content. I can't say that this happens to all like manosphere YouTubers. Like you've probably experienced more PW than say like FitX Fearless has. Like if you're giving red pill slash blue pill advice and teaching guys self-improvement, even if you're in the dating niche, you're probably not gonna get that much PW. You would get it if you're on like some, misogynist, woman-hating behavior, then you probably are going to get a little bit. Or if you're on your end of the spectrum, which is just complete like black pill, some of your videos have this like sort of tone of, defeatism, even if that's not what you're promoting, just the vibe and the tone of the video. I can see how that would make people a little bit hateful, you know?
No, I'd say number one is exposure. I'd say number one is exposure, like especially face exposure, because you wouldn't believe like when I took the face videos down, the number of these accusations and rumors like fell off like a cliff overnight. Like the main difference is having your face out there or not. Like, and I still get a lot of comments to this day that are saying like, "Oh, your face is already out there, so what's the problem? Like, why are you hiding your face?" Yeah, because it's face exposure that makes a difference. Like, and I've seen this, I've felt this in the real world, that when my face has been out there, it's like everyone knows and everyone's looking because when your face is out there, then all it takes is one quick YouTube search from the normies of society. And you got to think, like, in the perspective of normies of society, like, these aren't researched guys. These aren't people that are doing deep dives and properly trying to find me. Like, normies of society guys are the ones who will do a quick search at the YouTube channel, and if they can't see anything on the first homepage, then they leave it. Like even YouTube and Google have statistics about this. They say that 99% of the search results that they get don't make it to the second page of search results. Like the overwhelming majority of people only click on the first page and they don't even bother with the second page.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of that is brutal. I mean, I'm personally gonna keep showing my face just because, I don't want to try to run from the call. I don't want to be like, I'm not calling you a coward, but the way I see it is like I don't want to run from stuff. Like if I'm gonna talk about this, if I'm gonna, do what I do, people can see my face, people can do whatever they want, say whatever they want. I think I'm prepared to handle that. If it comes with some negatives, it is what it is. But that's why, like, I don't mind doing faceless videos. My audience actually prefer faceless content, but I also don't want to completely hide my face because so far, at least, the well hasn't been poisoned to the degree where I'd be like, okay, dude, yeah, this is so bad. Like, my family is being threatened or anything. If it got to that point, I would stop, of course. But
Yeah, that makes sense. And to be honest, I think that faceless videos are better because you just appeal to a wider range of phenos. Like you wouldn't believe, but viewers, like the audience members of YouTube and most platforms, are so biased towards pheno that they only want to watch people with the same pheno as them. Like, and I only know this is true because when I've got orders from customers, if Scamza offered a, not offered a video, but advertised me, like mentioned me in passing on his channel, then the next day, like I would just have a bunch of orders come through from, names that sound like the similar pheno to him, and this is the same with Darius M. Like I'm not sure if you know him, but he's another
oh yeah,
YouTuber
yeah,
in the
MGTOW
RP
channel,
space,
right?
and his whole audience, like the vast majority of it, is the same pheno as him. Same went for Kevin Samuels. Like people mainly watch the people that are the same pheno as them. That's just what I've seen.
Yeah, interesting. I don't think that's the case for me. I feel like a lot of my audience are actually white Christians, and like they're completely different pheno to me. I think my own pheno would be a minority of my audience, though. I haven't seen everybody who watches me's face, but like from what I've seen, that
Yeah,
seems
but
to be
you're
the
not
case.
like a distinct pheno.
Yeah,
Like
I come off as mixed. That's probably why.
yeah, I would say that's the main reason. But if you were same pheno as Darius M, then I think it would be a different story because I feel like you relate to a lot of Caucasian guys still, because you're close enough in terms of pheno that it's not so far removed. But if you was Darius M, then I think it
Right.
would be a different story.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the black red pill YouTubers like AMS, Darius, MJ, Get Right, FitX Fearless, most of their audience tend to be like ethnic males. That's a pretty accurate assessment. Face IQ thoughts on JBW. Face IQ isn't in the call, bro. Maybe he can tell you in chat though. Let's see, what is everyone else saying? Connor Murphy, majority audience is Italian. Yeah, we're not getting too many questions here. I don't know if there are any questions on your end. You could tell me.
I'll have a quick look. Yeah, obviously I get some viewers who are not the same pheno who watch me. It's actually quite a big chunk. But I would say before I started showing my face that it was more mixed, but then once you show that you're a given pheno, then just subconsciously the people that aren't the same pheno as you end up falling off. It's just natural. That's just how it is.
Do you lighten your skin, YBC? No, I don't, dude. Do I look like Zendaya to you? How do you rate face? I think Wheat Waffles has a different way of rating faces than Face IQ does. Yeah, that's the thing about face ratings. We can talk about this as well. They seem to be relatively subjective based on who you ask. Like, if I ask you, Wheat Waffles, what you would rate me, I think you have told me that I'm around a 6, whereas Face IQ would probably say something like 5.5 or 5.25. So,
Yeah, this is why I don't like.
you have to really study what the scale is, like what scale that person is using and what they mean by the number that they're giving out.
Yeah, this is why I don't like face ratings anymore. Like, even though I've made over $250,000 from selling the ratings, I just think it's a bit of a stupid system. Because everyone, to put it simply, everyone has a different scale. One person's 7 is another person's 5. And I've looked at Face IQ's system, and it seems to be so narrow. Like, to a new viewer, everyone seems to be given the same rating, like in this marginal sort of range. Like a 4.5 sounds really, really close to a 5.5. But, in his scale, like obviously there's quite a big difference between the two. So to me, I've like pretty much stopped using these number systems in real life, my real conversations.
That's why I say the best face rating scale is how women treat you.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
all you need to know. If you're getting choosing signals, if you're getting good treatment from women, if you're having success out there, you're most likely above average looking, depending, of course, on what market you're in.
Yeah, it's
but we
mainly
can
the
conclude
market.
that if you're pulling a lot, you're above average.
That's the main problem that I have with that system, because like in England, I'm not being funny, but you would think that I was submarginal or junk, just because choosing signals are abysmal, because it's just such a rigged market. It's so unfair. It's just crazy. And even like a girl equivalent to me who's the same pheno, but 2 points worse, like has it easier. And this is true because you look at the couples and you look at how much easier, like the girls are the same pheno who are way worse looks than you get it. But when you're in other markets, then all of a sudden the tables have turned and now you're the one in the driver's seat. So like basically the way that I've just started describing it is that you're either junk, marginal, or premium. And if you really want to like get picky about it, then you can add 2 sub tiers. It's upper marginal and sub marginal. And I would say that me and you are both in the upper marginal range. And I would say Face IQ, he's very, very close to premium. He's easily upper marginal, but he's close to premium because he's got the premium pheno and he's got the premium height. And his face is definitely upper marginal. So as a whole, he's close to premium.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Face IQ
premium.
mogs pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, Clavicular is premium. Who else in the space? Oscar Patel, he's marginal because the height and pheno like really, really hurts him. His
Chester
face is
Patel?
upper marginal, I'd say, but like his pheno and height and frame as well. His frame is really, really bad. Like he's just way too skinny. Like in photos it looks okay, but I promise you, this guy is not above 65 kg and at 5'8", that's just gonna really, really hurt your chances because
Dude, we should assemble everybody in the Look Smack space, everybody in the PUA space, and go to war with each other. Like, get
we
Oscar
do.
Patel, face like you, Clav, you, me, and then we get
Name
like,
more.
who are some PUAs right now who are popping
Baby
off? I don't know.
Stickley. Baby Stickley's premium. He's premium face. He's he's premium face, premium pheno, and he's, I would say, marginal height and upper marginal frame. But just because of the face and pheno alone, he's premium. Like, but his height is marginal, and his frame is upper marginal. Like, he's not big enough. Like, he's just too thin. Premium is 8, like 7.5 to 8. Upper marginal is anywhere from like 6 to a low 7. Marginal is 5, submarginal is 4, and junk is 3. Premium is like mid 7 to 8. Who else
I
is
mean,
there?
dude, I mean, if you're gonna be a looks maxer, you ought to be good looking. That's how I see it. Like, if you're gonna give looks maxing advice, you gotta look the part. So it makes sense why, like, you know, even if you say Oscar Patel is not the best looking, he's still, in my opinion, at least, pretty damn good looking. He'd still have
He's
a
got
lot
a
of
good
success.
face, but I've done Tinder experiments of him in England, and he got worse results than
Dude,
me.
you are so schizo about this shit. Like, you've done so many experiments.
No, I have. No, it was mainly because of arguments with my friend, and you know, he's had all of these like opinions about you know, oh, this guy's good, this guy mogs, oh, this guy doesn't, like stuff like this, and then I've just told him like, no, like, and I'll prove this to you. We'll do a Tinder experiment of him in this location, and I promise you, he's gonna do crap. And that's what's shown in the results. My predictions have never.
But maybe
been
that's
right.
less to do with how they look and more of a reflection of what the UK is like. I mean, if
It's
the
biased.
culture and
Like these experiments are biased towards England, obviously, but
yeah.
you know, it's still what I've seen. Like, you know, it might be a different story. Like, I'm not gonna be on it. Like, I'm not gonna lie here. If you put me and Oscar Patel in Italy or in Spain, then he would mock me. You know, it would be rigged against me, and it would be in favor of him. But in England, like, or Northern Europe, is not even going to be close. It's not even going to be a competition. Or even in
Right.
like red state America, it's not going to be a competition. Like, I would mog pretty hard, and that would be shown in the Tinder matches.
Right. Damn, dude. I enjoyed this conversation. I'm just reading chat right now. What would your advice be to unemployed guys in their mid-20s to exposure max? Don't focus on hooking up in women if you don't have your shit together. Like, if you're unemployed and you know you don't have the best living conditions, I would try to upgrade that a little bit before you start thinking about your dating life. Ask Wheat which non-JBWs do the best in his experiments. Yeah, which non-white people do the best?
Again, it depends on market, but I would say to give like a pheno. Well, if we just say UK market, because that's what I'm most used to, I would say in order of how easy it goes, Anglo-Saxon is number 1. That's the person that's gonna have it the easiest. Number 2
Okay.
is probably gonna be like Southern European, like Spanish, Italian. They're gonna have it second
Okay.
easiest. And then like Eastern European phenos are gonna have it third easiest, because they're all like still within the encompassment of European pheno. And like even based on the couples, that's what I've seen. Like I can recall couples where upper marginal girls, English girls, have been in relationships with the guys of this equivalent, like of these phenos, and it's very, very rare if they're not of those phenos. I would probably say after that, it goes slightly darker than the tan phenos, like North African, Middle Eastern. They can still do well, especially if they're Mediterranean passing. So if you're, say, a Tunisian guy who looks like he could be Greek or Italian, then you're going to have, it reasonably okay. Or if you're a Turkish guy who looks like he could be Italian, then it's going to be all right as well. You're going to have opportunities. And then I would say after that, probably goes East Asian guys, especially the pretty boy maxed ones. They do okay. And then after that, I would probably say sub-Saharan African and Indian guys, like South Asian guys do the worst. That's probably the
Damn.
lowest based on the couples that I've seen.
Dude, I actually know, like, because I've lived in Toronto for around 4 years now, and over here, dude, like Indian guys do very well. You'd be surprised. You'd think that they wouldn't, but they
No
actually do
way.
very well.
Okay, well,
Yeah, they
okay.
do.
You know, you said that you would come to Manchester. I'll come to Toronto one time, and we'll look at the couples. That's all I'll say. There's no point arguing
Yeah.
about it. We'll just look at the couples.
I mean, I would refer you to my friend Justin Mark, who is 5'4" Indian and pulling, but you know, he's an exception because he's like status maxed, money maxed, all of the other stuff maxed. So I just find that, yeah, like in Toronto, I see a lot of Indians with some hot girls. So do with that what you will.
Okay, yeah, we'll see. Right. Last couple questions, I guess.
Yeah, last couple of questions. Let me see, guys. If you have any specific questions, send it in the chat. We and I are gonna address them. Right now, it's just brain rot in the chat. Hamza pilled. Pajit's moving to Toronto. Thoughts on leg lengthening? Oh yeah, what are your thoughts on limb lengthening surgery?
Personally, I wouldn't. I think it's quite a risky surgery, but I've not done a huge amount of research into it.
Yeah, I think I talked about limb lengthening with Face IQ, and it's like if you're close to, you know, having premium height, as you would call it, then it's not, the ROI isn't worth it. But if you're like 5'4" and you do limb lengthening, you know, I think there is some ROI there. Obviously, you're kind of breaking your legs, so you can't walk for like a year. But you have to ask yourself, is that suffering worth it to get better results in the dating market? Each person's going to have a different take on that. Some are going to say it's absolutely worth it. Some are going to say absolutely not. And plus, you have to be rich as well, because you got to drop 100K on a surgery.
Yeah,
Thoughts
we're talking
on
about
gym
less than
maxing?
1% of the audience here who's got the money for that. So
Yeah. Thoughts on gym maxing, Wheat Waffles? What do you think about physique? Where does it fit into the equation?
I would say that going from high body fat to low body fat is like going from junk to marginal, and then going from
About going from non-muscular to muscular.
going from non-muscular to muscular is like going from marginal to premium. But the gap from junk to marginal is always bigger than the gap from marginal to premium. Like, so you should
Okay,
do
I
it,
see.
but you know, it's not as severe.
Yeah, but that's still a pretty optimistic take. I would have thought you would say the results from maxing out your physique are negligible. Like they're not going to make that big of a difference
No,
compared
it
to
does
your
make a
face and your
difference.
height.
No, it does make a difference. Like, I'm looking at some
Okay,
of the
that's good.
jacked 5'10" guys, and they do well. Like, I'm looking at the couples.
Yeah,
I look at the couples.
I'm
and I
glad you
see
said
if
that,
you're
actually. I
jacked
think,
at 5'10", you're getting a lot of looks. You're getting a lot of attention.
yeah, that's true. I think that face, we can all agree face matters more. But if you combine height and physique, like combine it as a package, I think it matters just as much as face. Maybe slightly less, but there's definitely
Nah, I
huge
think
improvements
face
to be
is
made.
always important. Like, in order to have good chances, you've got to be at least marginal face, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Face is like it's like the minimum threshold. Once you pass the face threshold, everything else becomes a bonus. So if you have a decent enough face, your height becomes a halo, your pheno becomes a halo, your physique becomes a halo. But if your face is below a certain threshold, then no matter what you do, it's pretty futile.
Yeah. What it comes down to is that just in all aspects of life, you can never afford junk. Junk is not acceptable in any scenario ever. Full stop. You can't be junk face. You can't be junk height. And junk height is like 5'5". You can't be junk physique, like obese. You can't afford it. It's too expensive. You can't be junk in terms of your earnings. And obviously, like, that's kind of rigged because the minimum wages are quite high in a lot of Western societies. So, like, a lot of the time, your wages are going to be at least submarginal. Like, junk wages are going to be homeless. But just in all aspects of life, you can never be junk. Like, you want to be marginal in everything at least.
Yeah, very true, very true. What do you guys think about gym maxing? We already talked about that. What do you do if your face is puffy at low body fat? Ask Face IQ. Uh, how can you be an expert on women if you haven't actually been a womanizer? Weedy boy has less than 10 baht. Okay, I'm not gonna address this comment. It's just a hate comment. Screw height and muscles. What about jelk maxing? What? Dude, most of these chats are trolls,
Okay,
man.
if,
You
if
guys
it's
are
all like just
trolling.
getting troll now, then like let's just end the stream. Like
All
you know,
right,
we've
bro. I'm done.
answered
Yeah.
most of the
Thank you
relevant
guys for
questions.
tuning in.
Yeah, it's been a good stream.
Yeah, been a great stream. We might do some more. Who knows? We Waffles and I definitely might do the IRL collab where we start day gaming. We'll keep in touch behind the scenes. And yeah, man, thank you for this collab. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
Really good
awesome, man.
discussion.
It's good to finally get into contact like this.
All right,
Have
bro.
a
Yeah, we'll talk soon then. I'll end the stream now.
All right, see you. Bye.
See you.
Right, I've ended the stream on my end, man.
Same. Oh, we're not streaming anymore. That was